Yo, what is up, birds of a feather? I'm here, and we've got a surprise host for you, but I'll get more into that later. You know the drill. Listen, subscribe, like. Let's go.
Let's go! This ain't the Rock Tyson Forces game, he stinks!
Oh shit!
It's gone!
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, it's Birds of a Feather on A2D Radio, brought to you by Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code A2D at manscaped.com. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. We are live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you download your podcasts. So if you're listening to us live or on your commute, we greatly appreciate your support. As usual, it's your boy Chuck's here, and I've got an old friend on the show, a former producer, former co-host spectacular, Mr. One Ryan Brodo. What is good, my man? How you been? What's going on?
That's one hell of an introduction, Chucks. I appreciate it. Producer / co-host spectacular. I'm gonna have to. Can I trademark that, please?
Well, of course, man. It's been a while since we have you on here. I missed you. I definitely missed talking to you.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure, sir.
So for those who are watching and listening, he is helping fill in because Pete is he's a little sick. The family, there's a bug going around his house, so he's a little under the weather. He is going to try to come on a little later, but we can't make any promises. So to help out, Ryan's here for a little bit to help me run at least part of the show, and we'll see how it goes for the rest of it. But we're gonna have fun while he's on, as we always do. And for the first quarter of the show, which is brought to you by eXp Realty. If you're looking to buy or sell a home, you're looking for a change in career brokerage, contact Alan Foy of eXp Realty LLC at 302-682-8820. First quarter of the show, we're going to talk about the latest Eagles news, which is the re-signing of Derek Barnett. Oh my God. We have a lot to say about that. I know me and Brodo do. The second quarter of the show, we're going to get to the rest of free agency, talk about the big moves that have been happening. I mean, trades galore. Holy crap. NFL news hasn't slowed down, at least from a league perspective. Eagles aren't really doing much, but from a league perspective, it hasn't slowed down. So we're going to get into that. Third quarter of the show, we'll do some draft Q&A if you have any questions about that, if you have any predictions regarding what the Eagles' approach might be. And in the fourth quarter, as usual, we'll hit you with some no huddle, some random topics here and there. But first, as I said a few moments ago, we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles re-signing of one Derek Barnett, and our poll question, which is brought to you by All Campus, the home of A2D Rant Booth, which is giving 20% off everything in their store, including hats, shirts, and team and cornhole sets. The poll question: it was a mistake for the Philadelphia Eagles to re-sign Derek Barnett. Agree or disagree? Okay, Ryan, I usually let my co-host go first, so I'm going to do the same here. Since it's been a while since you've been on,
Okay.
I'm going to let you have the pleasure of going first. So sound off here. Do you agree or disagree with the poll?
Listen, I got in on the panic, the anger-filled rage that I know was in our little group text a little bit earlier. Our friend Jimmy was not happy about it, which you can find every Monday on the Flight Zone. I'm sure he'll talk about it, even though it's going to be a handful of days until he gets to talk about it on Monday, but not happy about it. And listen, am I happy about it? No. I think it's annoying. I think it was time to move on, but I disagree to this, Paul, because I don't think it's meaningful enough for it to be a mistake. Like it's not like we're giving him, like, to be completely honest with you, Chucks, and I look at this as it's not nearly enough money for the agent to brag about it, the player to brag about it, for it to be notable enough to be reported. I have no idea what he's getting paid. And I've been checking. It's not like we haven't been doing our due diligence. Like, nobody's talking about how much he's getting paid, which tells me it's not nearly enough to be worried about. Like, I get it. Listen, we went into this free agency class, into this offseason with, oh, it's going to be new, it's going to be refreshing, and we've gotten Hassan Reddick, which, yeah, that's awesome. I find very little negatives with that signing. Then you watch all of the wide receivers, both that were already on a team like Tyreek Hill, which I'm sure you'll discuss at some point. And then you look at the free agency class, and everybody's moving and shaking. And we don't get any of them except for Pascal, which, Chucks, you and I have talked about numerous times. He's just a guy. It's Howie Roseman, Nick Sirianni's guy, more so Nick Sirianni's guy. So, like, I get we went into this expecting more, and instead of getting more, you get Mr. 8 penalties, 2.5 sacks of 2021. And I get the argument where he could be more of a negative than anything, but I just don't think it's that big of a deal, to be honest. Like, listen, am I happy he's back? No. Am I annoyed that he's back? Yes. Am I looking forward to seeing probably another 2 years, definitely 1 year of Derek Barnett penalties? Yeah, it's an annoyance. But I think he's a rotational piece. I think he's somebody who they're bringing in because Howie clearly likes him. And they've been telling themselves, kind of like I know this goes way old school, but you and Pete would always be on one side of the Barnett argument, and Chrome and I would be on the other. I don't want to say you two would be anti-Barnett, because you guys aren't anti-anything Eagles. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to support the players. But Chrome and I were always more patient with Barnett. And I think Chrome is still, like he said in the chat earlier, like,
it's still his son.
Yeah, it's his guy. That's his guy. Which is to each their own, I guess. I mean, that's Chrome's whole deal. I can't agree with that anymore. But, like, it's kind of like Howie Roseman still believes, oh, he's got a lot of talent, he just needs to put it together. I just don't think he's that guy. I mean, whether it's he can't get on the field because of injuries, or he's on the field, but then he's pretty much a net negative because of all of the penalties and dumb mistakes he makes. But I get the frustration. On A2D Social, we memed it 1,000 times, this signing. And I'm sure we'll meme it 1,000 more times. I just don't. It's annoying, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. So I'll disagree. I don't think it's meaningful enough for it to be a mistake.
Interesting point. That's an interesting point to look at it that way. And most of the chat so far has agreed with you in disagreement of the poll. Which and when you frame it in that context, you have an absolutely fair point. So I concede to that. What I will say is, because I agree to the poll. I think it's a mistake.
Okay.
But what I will say from my angle is that I think you are talking about a guy who in 2021 was an overall net negative when on the field. Mm-hmm. He was making more of a negative impact than a positive one last year. And that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot. And he's a guy who I felt like he was coming to his own early 2018 before he got hurt. If you remember that, he was off to a great start of the season. Yeah, we were playing really well. We're starting to look like the guy we would hope he would be. So I was very excited for him. So, like, the fact that I've turned into the quote anti Derek Barnett guy, or like I'm so against him, just speaks volumes, because it's not like I've always hated him or anything. Like, when he was drafted, I remember I was at a draft party at Chimo. And I was with my boy. It was a draft party with 97.5, and Brian Westbrook was there. And it was a lot of fun. But I remember 90% of the people that were there were so pissed off when Barnett got drafted, but I was one of the ones that kept a level head. Like he wasn't the one that I wanted, but at the same time I was like, it's not a horrible pick. And so like I've always been trying to be objective and still as hopeful as possible with Barnett, but I think that this past season is where it kind of dropped off for me. Whereas like, okay, ever since he came back from 2018, he's gotten worse every year. And I don't want that on my team, especially with a team that is supposed to be building with young tools, young guys, right? So I felt that even despite the fact that the Eagles are in a position where they're in free agency and now they're onto their plan B, because all of their attempted signings have gone out the window. No one wants to come here. No wide receiver wants to come here. No one wants to sign here. Like we've struck it out in free agency with the big names that we've wanted. So they're in plan B mode. They're like, okay, we have to re-sign some guys to have continuity and then build through the draft. Enter the draft with no glaring holes on the roster. And I get that. I believe in that approach. But I feel like with Barnett, he's the one guy so far that I've been like, to me, I don't agree with it, because you signed Hassan Reddick to kind of be now that starter opposite Josh Sweat at defensive end, okay? And everyone can talk about, oh, well, he's a linebacker, blah, blah, blah. He's an edge rusher, okay? He's going to be used as both a defensive end and a stand-up guy, but all in all, he's an edge rusher. That's what he's doing. So he's going to start in place of Barnett, all right? So Barnett now comes in as a backup? But if you're talking about a backup, like the fourth guy in the depth chart, I don't know, man. Like, I kind of would rather draft a guy on day 3, like 5th, 6th, 7th round, or get a undrafted free agent and see what they can do rather than have Derek Barnett here. So that's my stance, whereas like I don't need another player who's going to be another net negative on the field for the whole season, where I could continue to build with a young roster and have a younger player take his reps. So that's my position. Now, I get what you're saying, where in terms of money, like we really don't know yet, but since we don't know, it's probably not a lot. And so I hope that's the case, because if it's not a lot of money, then so be it. But I see 2 years and I'm like, why 2 years? Like, why are you giving him a 2-year contract? So I don't get it. I think it's a mistake to sign him to that type of contract and to sign him when he really was so bad last year. He was hurting your team on the field. But it's hard for me to argue against your point that, like, since he's a rotational guy, it won't matter too much. And hey, who knows? Maybe he won't do anything, because maybe we'll have a guy we draft that will step in and be like more of an impact than he will be. So in the end, it may not matter. So you may be right.
Yeah, I don't look at, like, because listen, you're not going to get any arguments from me as far as like how he was a net negative and how he was, like, listen, he sucked last year. I'll just say it, he sucked in a contract year, and that's really big in my eyes, and I think it would be for a lot of people, to where you expect somebody, and we talked about this before the season even started, that you have, you go into a contract year and you expect guys to step up, right? And he didn't really do that. If anything, he stepped back and he hurt the team. But the biggest reason why I don't think this signing really matters is because he had to be on the field last year. One, because Graham was out. Two, you know what I'm saying? Like, you had very limited personnel, and somehow the people behind Barnett were even worse. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to be, I mean, I pray to God you're not going to be in this situation again, but I really don't think you're going to be in the situation where he has to be on the field. If he has a good camp and maybe a good preseason and all of that, maybe he outplays a rookie and all that stuff, then yeah, you might see him. But if he's doing all of those things, then he deserves to be on the field. But when I say it's not a meaningful signing, I don't, and I say this to the chat, like, I don't just look at it financially. I look at it in the sense of, I don't think this is a signing that's going to keep you from drafting somebody you want, say it's in the first 3 rounds.
Absolutely.
We all know how Howie loves, targeting the lines and especially the edges of those lines. So, I mean, you hear all of the rumors that they might go O-line again. Well, clearly it doesn't matter who's already on the team because I would argue, I think a lot of people would, that the offensive line is like the one position of strength that we have.
Yeah.
Like you have a lot of holes everywhere else. The possession of strength and deep is offensive line, and you're hearing it might take friggin' Linderbaum, or whatever the guy's name is. I just don't think at the end of the day it's that meaningful. It's annoying. I much rather would have had it 3 weeks from now. Like, it's weird. It's a signing that is like a 6 weeks into free agency signing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not week 2.
Week 2.
And I'm semanting everything because it's semantics, like when somebody signed.
Yeah.
But I get how the outrage is, oh my God, this is terrible, because people can just look at it without even really going deep into it. Like, oh my God, this is the answer. Oh my God, we're taking him over a draft guy.
Yeah.
If we're sitting here, the Monday after the draft and they don't take one defensive end and Howie Roseman's talking about, oh, Derek Barnett's our guy, then yeah, I'll be throwing things at the screen. But until that happens, I'm not gonna parade down the street with pitchforks saying, oh my God, fire the GM. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I have, that's a good point, because I think if this had happened, even if it happened after the draft, say like 2 weeks after the draft, after all, everything's dissipated, and now what you've taken, team knows what positions they've taken, obviously, and this was like one of those pre-camp signings, I think you have a totally different sentiment, totally different kind of reaction. Maybe not totally, but I think that the reaction is different overall. Especially for me, right now it seems like seeing 2 years, a 2-year contract in week 2 of free agency looks to me either one, a panic move, or two, this was planned all along. And I really hope out of those two, I hope this was the former. I'm sorry. I hope this was a former, that this was kind of like a panic plan B move, like I said. So, I probably will calm down, because Jimmy was going off in the chat, and I was right there with him. I said I was pissed off, because I just, out of all the moves and re-signings, this was the one I didn't want to see happen, and it happened. And it's because I just don't think I think if anything, he needs a new place. Like, I don't think he's going to be successful here. I just don't see it. He's on his way. He's regressing as a player. And I just felt like a fresh start could have been better for him. But here we are, another season of Barnett. It is what it is. I mean, the chat so far, looking at it, the sentiment seems to be what our sentiment is, that no one is happy about it, but people either are with you where they don't care as much because he's not going to do anything, or they do care. They're with me where they didn't want it to happen. But regardless, we all agree that this isn't really a player that we're excited to have back.
No, it's an annoyance. And like Jesse says, no one is happy with Barnett. My thing is not only that he stinks, it's that when he's on the field, it's the flag after flag with the guy. Free first downs for the other team. But that being said, I doubt he gets any playing time. He'll be a good depth piece. Daly said earlier, he said, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the Eagles having cap issues? I get what Chuck's is saying, but they don't have they have limited money to spend, which is why Howie is signing the guys he is. Chuck, you probably have a better idea about this than I would. I don't believe they're in cap hell, because
no, they're not.
Like, that's why they went and they restructured Slay. That's why they cut Fletcher Cox for 35 seconds and brought him back. And also the Barnett signing, again, just based off of just how we haven't heard anything, we wouldn't imagine it's anything crazy. A Barnett signing is not going to dictate whether you're in cap hell or whether you're as free as a bird to sign anyone.
Yeah. I feel like if I were to take a wild guess, just a wild guess of what this contract is that it's very limited guarantees. That way, if they want to cut in, they can. And it's a lot of money up front because they have the cap room for this year because of all the restructuring and everything. That would be my wild guess. I could be wrong, but I think there's not a lot of guarantees on this contract. So,
and it's probably all incentive related. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
I mean, is there a way he could be, penalized in his contract if he has a certain amount of penalties, like a penalty. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a negative incentive.
Possibly.
Tom's saying he'll join us in a little bit once Cass goes
Sounds
to
good.
sleep because him and I were talking a little bit earlier about the Barnett thing, and
Yeah.
he said in our chat, like, he's not, and I'm not going to speak for him. He'll talk about it in a little bit, but he said in the chat, like, it was time to go, but he does see positives in it, which I understand.
Yeah, he's always been he's always been kind of like on the Chrome side. He's a Barnett guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I know that he doesn't mind as much, but I think we all agreed that Barnett, looking at it, was one we thought that wouldn't be back, which is what makes it surprising.
Well, I think, to be honest with you, and Jesse, this goes right into your question also with Brandon Graham. I think bigger than all of it, right? And I get it. It's weird to look at Barnett as like a veteran, almost insurance piece, because he's been anything but that in his career so far. But I look at it where you're going to have so many draft assets, whether you move them, whether you change them, you move up, you move down, you trade back until next year. I think, in my opinion, if I had to get in Howie Roseman's head, he's looking that over the next season to 2-3 seasons, you're going to have an influx of younger kids, basically. Yeah. You're going to have a lot of younger guys, inexperienced, unfamiliar with what you're trying to do. I think they look at Barnett to where, okay, listen, he could be a pain sometimes. He's the definition of inconsistencies, but he's familiar with what we're trying to do here. So he can kind of be the mold between, okay, you have the veterans that are getting a lot of attention, the Fletcher Coxes, Javon Hargraves, Brandon Graham, even though I think he's going to be a way more limited role than people expect, not because he's not very good, it's because he was already an aging player and he's coming off of an Achilles.
Yeah.
I can't expect him to be Brandon Graham 2019. I can't expect him to do that. To where they look at it, okay, say you draft 3 defensive linemen, say you draft 2 tackles and an edge. Okay, well, that means your 4th guy, acquisition-wise in the offseason, is Barnett. Okay, because you look at the defensive tackles, right now it's Fletcher, Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams. Hassan Ridgeway's gone. The guy from the Browns that we traded a random 4th-round pick for him to barely ever play, he's gone. So Sweat's obviously still going to be around. You would expect he takes a big step, not only because he's in it would be year 4 now, Chucks?
2018, so we're year 5. Year 5.
Okay. And also and he gets extended. So I just look at it as a rotational guy. Again, if he needs to be that starting, right edge that he's been, that tells me that, okay, some of the other guys just can't friggin' play. Or they got hurt again. Like, to me, this tells me he's the insurance to stand behind Brandon Graham.
Yeah.
Like, okay, Brandon Graham gets hurt again, or he just can't play anymore.
Bring in Barnett. Yeah.
Yes. Because it would be tough to bring in a friggin' like a 3rd-round edge rusher to be the backup for a guy coming off an Achilles. Like, that's putting a lot of pressure on him, especially when, like, we like Milton. I think they took Milton, in the 3rd round?
Yeah, 3rd round. That was the controversial pick.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with the handshake. That was the handshake.
that was Milton.
So it's not like Milton Williams was a 7th-round pick or even an undrafted guy. A 3rd-round pick is like, hey, we believe in you. We expect you to do some things. And even then, they're very patient with their picks, very patient with their linemen. Yeah. So I can understand where it's like, okay, we're not going to throw the guy into the deep end, whether it's a 2nd or 3rd-round pick. If you listen, I will say everything I just said, it goes away. If you draft somebody in the 1st round, that's an edge. You're playing above Barnett.
You have to play him.
Like, we're not doing if the way I've always looked at it, it's not rocket science. If you are picked in the 1st round, you are a day 1 starter.
Yes,
it's just what you need to be.
Normally, that is the expectation. Absolutely. I mean, great points. I think that it'll be interesting. I think that you have to draft an edge at some point. Maybe not the 1st round. But man, day 2, you gotta look at it and start to build that pass rush. I think it's definitely important because I mean, as much as we like the guys some of the guys we have, like Milton, obviously Hargraves, Sweat, over the course of this season, there just wasn't enough. I think we both will agree to that. There's
100%.
especially the playoff game against the Bucks. Are you kidding me? Where was the pass rush? It didn't show up till like the second quarter.
Didn't get on the
So
plane. Didn't get on the freaking
man,
plane.
like it's you. We need pass rush. And I mean, like me and Pete. I know you know this. Me and Pete are such advocates of Josh Sweat,
Mhm.
but neither one of us will say that Josh Sweat is a superstar player that can dominate on the edge by himself. No, he's not that guy. He's a good player. A good player drafted in the fourth round come a long way. He's a good player to have, but he's not a superstar. So you need someone opposite him because when you get a legitimate pass rusher opposite him who can provide consistent pass rush on their own too, now you talk about helping Josh Sweat on the other side. Because if Josh Sweat's the only consistent one getting pressure, they're going to double Josh Sweat. And
It's
then what's going
funny.
to happen?
It's funny because I've always looked at and granted, one's a first round pick. I think what Joshua was a fourth.
Fourth, yes.
So it's much different when you look at draft assets, but just the player alone, I've always, up until last season when Barnett did or didn't do what he needed to do, I looked at both of them very similar. I looked at them as two rotational guys that can have high upside type games to where maybe they have, you have a Josh Sweat game. I think you had, 3 or 4 of those last year, which is why you got the contract extension. And Barnett, before last year, you had a couple games where it's like, okay, he had something clicked in his friggin' mind to where, oh, no, I sacked the quarterback. I don't get penalized. It's like, oh, no, that's my job. So I always viewed them very similar that, okay, they're rotational guys. Neither one of them are going to be superstars. I'd be ecstatic, as we all would if I'm wrong, and Sweat becomes that eventually.
Oh, I think he would exceed even me and Pete's expectations if that happened. But yeah, go
but
ahead.
they're two rotational guys, and that's just the way they look at it. You know what I'm saying? They're not going to get paid overly, too much money, but they're going to be good enough to keep roster space and have impacts in certain aspects.
Yeah, I think the surprising thing about Sweat is the fact that his knee hasn't come up as an issue so far.
Yeah.
Like they're giving him starter reps now and he's held up. I think that was the one biggest thing that was a question mark with him was like, hey, like, is he playing on one knee? Like, like they have to maintain that knee and that's why you have to rotate him in. But they gave him more reps last year. He held up. We'll see how long that lasts. I think we all hope and hope that he does last. His knee doesn't, buckle out or give out on him. So hopefully that's the case because that would be pivotal to for his continued progression and his production in this defense. Now transitioning from the defense to the offense, let's talk about the other signing that the Eagles did a few days ago. Even though, again, you could argue how relevant it is compared to the Barnett signing. And that's the signing of one Zach Pascal, which you called several times in our chat. We talked about it several times. You're like,
you know what? I'm not even going to give myself credit for it. Like a couple people on our Instagram, they tagged me and they were talking about when Tom and I were talking about it on Monday. Yeah, like we talked about it. I saw it coming. I said to Tom, like, hey, it's one of those things. I hope I'm dead wrong. But it's not even like I went like, I'm not going to play like a source card. It's literally the most.
It makes sense.
Been Nick Sirianni, Philadelphia Eagles signing ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, it's the Colts connection. Nick Sirianni talked about him, ever since he left Indianapolis. But this guy was like all potential. He was locked in, dog mentality.
He had his best seasons under Sirianni. So it kind of just like, it made too much sense. And I was, when you said it in the chat, I was like, yeah, like I don't disagree. It's going to happen. It's like
the one thing I want people to pause on, right? And like, again, I think the Pascal signing is more impactful than the Barnett just because our wide receiver core right now sucks. I mean, it's like Davonte's awesome. Clearly, it's no disrespect to Davonte. It's just everyone else. It's just literally. And I like Quez, but he's a 6th round pick that he looks to me
he's
more
a wide receiver 3, like
at most. And they talked. I was listening to Tim McManus when I was driving home today, and they were talking about how they view Quez Watkins as a 2. I almost drove off the damn road. Like, he's not a 2 at any aspect. Like maybe
we're wrong and he develops into one, but I can't see him being a 2. And I like Quez.
Listen, the guy went from he was able to run one route in his rookie year and barely got on the field to, listen, he had like 600 and some yards. So he got better. But there's no world where it should go Davonte, who's in year 2, to Quez. There's no world where I say, oh, that's okay. I sleep well at night knowing that. Especially when you have all the wasted assets that you used on the other guys that are just sitting behind them.
Yeah, I don't see. Well, before let's answer Sam Nelson's question. He said he poses a good question. Do they take David Ojabo in the second round? Did this injury make them re-sign Barnett because they were targeting Ojabo in round 1? I haven't scouted Ojabo a lot, so I don't know much about his game. I know that he was a first-round talent, and he's now fallen. He's kind of like a raw project. Not a raw project. Those are in round 3, but like he's more of a he's not as fine-tuned as other edge defenders and pass rushers. So I don't know. If that does happen, I wouldn't be surprised. I'll say that. If they end up taking Ojabo in round 2, because they know Ojabo is going to need a redshirt year essentially, and that's where they have Barnett, I wouldn't be surprised. Nor would I hate it. I wouldn't love it, but I wouldn't hate it. That's my stance.
It's actually funny, Chucks. You caught yourself a second ago by saying he's like a raw project. That's what he is. He's a raw project of the first round. That's exactly what he is. He's only played 1 year. He has very limited.
Oh, wow, he only played 1 year.
Yeah. He's played very little football. Very little football. Hey, I look at him a lot as like, listen, Brandon. I don't want to say he's like Brandon Graham was when we drafted him, but Brandon Graham's somebody who doesn't put his hand in the dirt. He's a project guy. He's somebody with high potential, but it's going to take him a couple. It's going to take him a few.
He's very athletic usually.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's a freak. Like, honestly, I look at him. He's like different positions. But you know how everyone talk about Davion Taylor? Like, freak, barely played football. That's why he drops to the 3rd round.
Kind of similar, he really should have been taken around 4 or 5.
Oh, yeah. Well, we said that on draft night. It's like, yeah, we liked this, but you should have done this tomorrow, not today.
Not today, yeah.
Like, you're early, Howie. You're early.
Yeah,
Ojabo, like, listen, he flashed a lot in Michigan. I like him. I would have been okay with it if we would have taken a flyer with him at 19 if we took 2 more solidified guys at 15 and 16.
Okay.
But to me, like, you know what's funny? This kind of intertwines with what I was saying about Barnett. The Barnett signing makes sense if you took Ojabo also. Because, Ojabo is kind of that future guy that you can have, as a protege in a couple years. But to be honest with you, I don't see him making it to the 2nd round. Again, if the medicals look okay by draft day, you know what I'm saying? Like, we know he's going to miss some time and all that.
Anyways, yeah.
Because I think that 5th year is going to be big for a guy like him because he might not flash until year 3.
Yeah.
So you know what I'm saying?
You have that option.
Yes.
So there's a team that's a good case. That's a good point because a team late in the 1st round will still get that 5th year option.
You'll have 2 years of the guy being what he is. Yeah. Instead of he flashes and then, sorry, I'm a free agent now.
Yeah.
And you got to kind of make a decision on like a 1 year sample size.
That makes perfect sense. That's probably what's going to happen is
and I like, listen, I've talked to Tom about this some, at times on Mondays to where I could see how we, maybe moving from like 19 to like 28, for example, and getting some later assets.
Yeah.
If that was the pick of 28, would I be surprised? No. But to me, and like I was just going to say, Jesse, I could see him going to the Ravens because they have it now guys and they can also work on developing later. And that's just what they do. They're just like they're a talent factory. We're a quarterback factory. They're a talent factory over there. But to me, I like Ojabo. I think he can be good in a couple years, but with what we need right now, and that's day 1 difference makers, I'm good. Like, I'm rooting for him because I really like him as a talent. I won't be rooting for him if he ends up on another team in our division. But I'm good on that. But to answer Sam's question, I could absolutely see us taking him Definitely if he gets to the second round, and if we trade back in the first round.
Yeah,
I completely see that happening.
Makes sense. All right, so as I was saying about the wide receiver position, and that's what it's funny because before our original criteria before this whole Derek Barnett signing was about the wide receiver position. So everything you said about Pascal is correct. Like I'm totally with you. Like it made perfect sense. Everything you said about Quez, I'm right there with you. I like Quez. When we took him, that year we took him, I liked Quez because I felt like he was a raw guy that needed development, and I saw him as someone with upside. So this is nothing against Quez. I really like how far he's come already in 2 years. I don't see that upside of being a wide receiver too, where he can handle all these targets and make all these plays opposite of Devonte Smith. Because that's what your wide receiver 2 is supposed to do. When you need someone who can step up and dominate when your top guy is getting doubled or tripled. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like perfect example, the Rams with Cooper Kupp and OBJ. When teams were triple bracketing Cooper Kupp, look what OBJ did. Look what he did in the Super Bowl before he got hurt. He feasted. One-on-one coverage, he absolutely dominated. That's what you need from an ideal wide receiver too. Someone who will dominate and really produce at a high level when they have that single coverage and the top guy is not he's being taken away. I don't have confidence in Quest to be able to do that. I think he's someone who's capable of making splash plays on occasions during a game when you need it, which is exactly what a wide receiver 3 is, a depth guy. So I don't know where they go from here because I don't think Pascal is that either. I think Pascal is another wide receiver 3, with a different skill set than Quez. I think they have different games, different styles of play. And I think Pascal was brought in because it just made so much sense. But that need for a wide receiver 2 is still there. And I know there's this rumor going out today that the Eagles, or rumor report, wherever it came from, I don't know where it was, that the Eagles are interested in acquiring Devonte Parker. Mm-hmm. I would be good with that. Like I wouldn't be ecstatic. I don't think it's the guy that we all kind of envisioned getting as the wide receiver 2. Well, we could do worse. I think I've always liked Devonte Parker, and remember, what was it, 2 years ago? 2 seasons ago, where he absolutely abused us in the game against Miami.
Oh yeah, the 2019 year. Yeah, it's when formerly known as Carson Wentz, the artist formerly known as 11. Yeah. We had to win the last 4 games to get into the playoffs.
Yeah. That was like the last loss or something like that. Yeah. Devonte Parker absolutely terrorized us. And almost single-handedly, him and Ryan Fitzpatrick almost single-handedly pretty much won that game for the Dolphins over us. Mm-hmm. So I like Parker. I obviously think he's flawed as a wide receiver 2. I don't think he's the best guy out there, but I still think he can get the job done more often than not. So I think he's a solid wide receiver 2 if we were to get him. And I think here's the thing. The reason why I would want him as opposed to not trading for him is because I really do, that wide receiver 2 need, that glaring hole is bothersome, because I don't want Howie or anyone feeling like we have to reach for a wide receiver again in the draft. Like, if one falls, awesome. If one is there, awesome. But if we don't sign another one, I'm worried that, like, hey, we need another wide receiver, and now we're taking someone where there's a better talent on the board. I don't want that to happen. And 2, also, because I would like a proven guy, a proven vet who's done it and produced to some level in this league, to be there for our young guys and coach them on, not coach them up, but help develop them. You know what I mean? Help out Devonte Parker. If you bring him in, he can definitely help Devonte Smith which I just realized that 2 Devontes. Jesus Christ. So Parker would help Smith and learn the ropes a little bit and help with his development. So I would be all for Devonte Parker for the right price, obviously.
It's and I'll ask you in a second, like what you think that price would be, because I think it's interesting as far as what we would have to give up for him. But I think that the theme here, and I was thinking about this before the Barnett signing, before obviously the Devonte Parker rumors. I've had this feeling for about a week and a half. And again, this is not a source thing. This is just my gut feeling. They could make a splash tomorrow, and I will happily stand corrected. The last 8-9 months, this offseason has been branded not by the fan base. I'm sorry, not by the organization, but by the fan base as it's going to be splashy. Because unlike last offseason where we were dealing with trying to get a quarterback out of town and not having any money on the flip side, we had an semblance of money and we had draft capital. So it was, I don't want to say we fooled ourselves into thinking that, oh my God, we're going to get this guy and this guy and this guy, and we're going to make picks and we're going to do this and it's going to be all, you know what I'm saying? But aside from the Reddick thing, it's been anything but that. I just have the overwhelming feeling that it's not tanking, it's not the process or anything like that, but they have 2023 as like almost penciled in, circled in, as like, this is the year we're going to put all the eggs into the basket. And again, I'm not saying that means they wouldn't trade, a mid-round, late round, whatever, it would take reasonably to get Devonte Parker. I'm not saying that that's going to keep them from getting a safety or making some picks of guys that can help right now. Absolutely not. They should and probably still will do something like that. But for everyone going around saying, well, why didn't we get in on, like everyone was saying, like, okay, trading for DK Metcalf or trying to get Tyler Lockett, which I think makes a lot of sense. I know we were talking about that in the group, or Tyler Boyd and some of these other splashy moves, right?
Yeah.
I just don't think Howie Roseman, Jeffrey Lurie, and the Eagles want to put all of their eggs into the basket and kind of go all splashy. And this is not, I'm not trying to make it a Hurts thing, but they literally don't know who their quarterback is. They don't, like, how can you go in
that's a good point,
and make all these splashy moves when, like, I don't know what the hell he is. And I wonder if the Eagles hadn't had the same mindset that we did, to where, okay, 2021, we're going to figure out exactly who Jalen Hurts is. That was like, as we talked about, like, yeah, we want to win games. We want to get to the playoffs and not lose by 35 points. We want to have a fun season. But the end goal was always last season, we need to have a feel of what Hurts is. I just think it's one of those things where, listen, we're going to help the guy where we needs to. Okay, we're going to bring in Pascal, who the coach clearly loves, and he's an upgrade over Arcega-Whiteside and Reagor. We can go and make some, big-time moves, obviously Reddick, because that's not only going to help us this year, and it's going to help provide stability, not only the defense, but the defensive coordinator, because the big criticisms of the defensive coordinator, which I'm not a big fan of him, but it was always, well, he doesn't have the weapons he needs to really show what he needs to do. So it's like, we're going to add these little pieces in here, but at the end of the day, we don't need to do anything super splashy. We don't need to trade 3 first-round picks or a stupid deal like they did for Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, if there's ways to improve the team, great. But it's kind of like, and I hate saying this because it drove me up a wall with the Phillies, but I think they have a mindset of what Andy McPhail and Matt Klintak said a couple summers ago around the trade deadline when they were asked about their push for the playoffs. And Andy McPhail looked in the camera and he says, if we do, we do. We don't, we don't. If they win the division, great. They're going to go on podium saying this is exactly what we had in mind, right? But if they take a little bit of a step back, because whether the roster's not good enough or the quarterback's just not good enough, then they're just going to say, well, we told you last year it was a 3 to 5 year plan, because that's what the owners said. That's why I don't think they're going to make all 3 picks. I think they're going to sit back and they're going to keep one right here just in case the quarterback, or most probably because the quarterback isn't good enough.
Yep.
So
I've been in agreement with you. I think Tom has too. I think one of those picks is going to be traded for, and part of it's going to be ammunition for next year. I absolutely believe so. I would put if you know any draft bet sites or sports books that are have that as a prop bet, let me know because I would put money down on that. I would take the odds on that. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, Jesse Davis does ask, do we think that Garrett Wilson's comments bear any weight? He was telling Nick Sirianni that he always wanted to play here, would love to play with Davonte, and that Nick's a wide receiver guy. I'm sure they listen. I think that this is what my opinion. I think that Garrett Wilson was telling the truth. I think if he grew up a big Eagles fan. I'm sure he would love to play here. I'm sure he would. I don't think it bears any weight in terms of if he goes elsewhere, it's not going to affect him. Like he's not going to be heartbroken, and I don't think that him wanting to play here makes the coaching staff or scouts or anyone on the Eagles like him any more or less than they originally planned. If they liked him, they're going to like him the same amount before or after these comments. So I think they were truthful, but I don't think they bear any weight in terms of what's going to happen with the draft. It's just a prospect saying that he would love to play for his hometown team. That's what it is. I'm sure there have been so many prospects that probably had the same mindset. But when it comes to the draft, you play where you get drafted. Unless if you're Eli Manning. Unless if you're Eli Manning.
Oh, yeah, of course. So then you get to dictate wherever you can go. Thank you for saying that because, listen, I know it's the Philadelphia thing, especially on Twitter. Like, oh, my God, an athlete said he wants to be in Philadelphia. He's perfect. Listen, I respect it from him. I do. It's great. I appreciate it. I like when athletes say they want to come here as opposed to when they would say they don't want to come here. But they're going to pick him if they think he can play. They're going to pick him if they think he can fit along with the quarterback who –
Absolutely.
I don't know if the quarterback can get him the football. He couldn't get Devonte Smith the quarterback. Devonte Smith the football. But it's not going to – I want to play with Devonte. You're going to pick me? You know what I'm saying? I'm an Eagles fan too. You're going to pick me?
I'd love to. I'm sure Tom would love to play with Devonte Smith. I think we'll see.
They're going to pick Tom? You know what I'm saying? They're going to pick Tom.
We'll all play.
I probably can throw it better than our quarterback now.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I think Ryan said it. I was in passing. But a couple of things. This is about the Barnett real fast. I don't care. I see people up in arms, up in arms for a rotational guy that maybe can bring you some value. I'm not saying a lot of value, but maybe he walks in the 5 sacks for once, right? Maybe in a role that's not as a starter, right? He realizes oh, maybe I got to get better, right? And maybe I got to work a little harder. Maybe I got to have more attention to detail, right? And that can eliminate some penalties and some of the extra that goes on with Derek Barnett, right? I mean, he's a motor guy. He's a high motor guy, and you can never have enough defensive ends. So the losers out there that think this is egregious, just stop watching football because you can never have enough defensive ends. You can go draft one too. It's not gonna stop them from seeing a guy in the first round and saying, you know what, that's our guy. And maybe the reports about Ajabu are right. Maybe that's somebody they really were targeting around those slots. And once the Achilles happens, they're okay, you know what, we're going to go to plan B and we're going to bring back Derek Barnett. But the thing I heard in passing is until there's a quarterback, until there's a franchise quarterback here, this doesn't matter. So unless you go sign Bobby Wagner and Tyrann Mathieu and you want to have a top 5 defense in football, it doesn't matter. You're not winning anything. Okay, maybe you get lucky and you win a division. Whoop-de-doo, you're probably a first-round exit. Right? Maybe you get lucky and you win a round. But if anybody thinks, and I'm always, and Ryan knows this from doing shows with me forever, I'm a 10-11 win guy every year. I don't look at schedules. I don't look at who they're playing. I look at what the roster is. And last year I said, you know what? If they run the football, they can win 10 games. They can make the playoffs. And what did they change and do? They started running the football because that's Jalen Hurts' skill set. But come playoff time, you better be able to throw it enough. And so until that's answered, none of it matters. But I'm just looking at the chat and people are like, hey, it's ridiculous. How can they do this? What? They signed Hassan Reddick to be their other starting D end. either Brandon Graham or Josh Sweat will win the other job. And then look at your two backups. Look, think about that for a minute. You could have Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett as your rotational guys, and people are upset about that. That's actually a pretty good front, if you ask me.
Yeah, and I said this. I don't know if you were listening at the time, but like, I don't think this is a signing that's going to keep them from taking a defensive end in the draft. I honestly don't. Whether that's first round, second round, whatever.
No, because the money's not guaranteed, right? That's the whole thing. It's probably a 2-year deal, like $5 to $7 million a year, and there's probably only like $5 million of that.
I said the same thing, that very little guarantees on this contract, probably very little.
Yeah, it's super cheap, like Greg said. Like, and just Greg just said, it's a cheap deal. It doesn't matter, and you can never have enough. And if they target somebody in the first round, it's not going to stop them.
No,
it's not going to stop them at all, because they don't know what Brandon Graham is. That's another reason why they have to bring him back, right? And they're like, okay, and they have so many other holes too. That's the bigger factor. Like, if they don't address the end this year in the first or second round, then they can say, okay, well, we have enough for this year. Maybe we can go address it next year. So,
well, I said it's the insurance policy, and I said I understand people can roll their eyes when they hear Derek Barnett insurance policy because he's been anything but. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. He's inconsistent. But the thing is, to your point, Dom, you've got to build out a roster. You have to. And I think what Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie are looking at is, aside from this offseason, over the next couple of off seasons, you're going to have an influx of youth. You're going to have an influx of a lot of rookies just because you have draft capital. You got to use them. So you have Brandon Graham coming off an Achilles, already an aging player before he went down with the injury. Instead of, because Tom, I think you're at the top of the list where you really like Milton Williams. Like you, and we all do. Not that we're haters of Milton Williams, but you would agree with this, I think, more than anybody, that we clearly have seen flashes from him. And he was clearly a third-round pick, so they believe in him too. But even then, they were extremely patient with him. So what it tells me with this Barnett thing is that they look at Barnett as the insurance plan if Brandon Graham can't stay healthy or he's just flat out terrible. Like, I don't look at the Barnett signing and saying, oh, he's guaranteed to be a starter. No, he's an insurance policy because they're not going to throw somebody they take at any rounds unless they trade up for somebody big, which I doubt they would do, and throw him right into the fire. And two, he's been around. I understand he has a lot of negatives, but at least he knows what they're trying to do here.
The continuity.
Yes.
You have to have guys that are familiar with the system so that you don't have the learning curve that you had in year one. So, that makes sense. Absolutely makes sense.
If they, and Tom, I said, if they don't take a defensive end at all in the draft, right? And Howie Roseman, his post-draft press conference, he's talking about how, we didn't believe we had to upgrade at the defensive end spot because we have Derek Barnett. Okay, well, then I'm throwing things at the screen. You know what I'm saying? Like, then the anger can come through. But listen, Howie Roseman said a lot, especially on draft weekend. I really doubt we're going to be in that spot.
Yeah, I don't think, like I said, we have so many holes that aren't even being talked about. And that's if they even make 2 picks. That's even if they make 3 picks in the first round, which is not going to happen.
I don't think none of us 3 believe they're going to make 3 picks. No.
And people have been angry with me from the beginning about it because I'm like, they're not making 3 picks. People are like, well, why wouldn't you? Well, first off, they don't even hit when they got 1. So now they're going to have 3, and now we're saying, well, we're going to get everything we need. Oh, pass one off. Go into next year having having assets, if that's to go and draft one or do what other teams have done and go target somebody that it got sour somewhere. I don't know who that would be, right? It gets sour somewhere and they want out, because that's happening all around the league now. Quarterbacks don't stay places like they used to. So
we'll get into that next segment.
We'll have Jalen here for 45 years. We'll be the one team that's like, he's going to be the guy.
He's a leader, everybody. He would never do this. No, please.
He works hard. We've got Pete Evans. So he's saying, thanks for stepping in, fam. Much love. He disagrees to the poll. Have a great rest of the show. Gotta stop the leak in my ceiling while sick. Lucky me. That sucks.
It's coming down.
Oh man, yeah. This rain sucks. The weather sucks. I hate this. Please give us sunshine and rainbows again, please. But hope you feel better. We'll see you next week. Definitely go fix that hole in your ceiling. We had now to transition back to the wide receiver position. I know we had certain guys have asked us questions. John Adcock earlier asked, would we take Drake London if he falls like most think he will? What do you mean by fall? Like, you mean like, are you talking about fall to like the later first round? You talking about fall to the second round?
Well,
because if he's in the second round, I'd consider him.
I think Chucks. I think because I'm looking right here, he's projected to go top 11 right now. So
he's projected to go top 11.
Yeah, Drake London, USC wide receiver. He's
By
projected Washington. So he would be the opposite of Terry McLaurin. He would be on the opposite side. I think that's a mistake. I
don't know. How do you guys, because to me, he's an intriguing wide receiver who's a big body, wins with a lot of catch radius, but like he's not exactly the most athletic or dynamic player. So he's your traditional like big body X guy. So not a lot of versatility with him, but you get what you get. I've seen people talk about him and get worried that he has too many similarities to JJ Arcega-Whiteside. I've seen people say that he's a much better player than JJ Arcega-Whiteside. So comparing them was unfair. I haven't deep dived into him. I've just seen like 2 games of him. What is your position on Drake London?
Go ahead, Tom, because I think you and I are on the same boat here.
He's fine. I'm not in, like, not trying to run away from the question. I'm just not in the wide receiver mode this year. I think this is where our fan base gets cute, right? Like, how many times are we going to take one, guys? How many first rounds and second rounds are we going to take wide receivers and miss? Right? The only one we're hitting on is Davonte. Everything else we've taken in the first, second round has came back to bite us in the butt. So like, why are we even looking in that direction? I mean, if we had a quarterback that we really believed in, then I'm all for it. But we don't have that quarterback that we believe is a true pocket passer. So, if they draft one, good. Be my guest if that's the best player on the board. But that's really where I stand. That I think Drake London's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with him. You know what I mean? I think he's a first round talent. But he also had a freshman throwing him the football and a true freshman last year at USC. So, I mean, that, I don't know what his numbers were, but if you're considered a first round grade and you had a literally a true freshman throwing you the football, I mean, then guess what? Maybe you do have a lot of talent, but I don't think we're in the position to be looking wide receiver again.
Yeah.
It's tiresome, and like you said, Tom, he had just over 1,000 yards. He averaged 12.5 yards, yards a catch. But like, number one, I see USC and I get Nelson Aguilar flashbacks. By the way, so I can't get past
everyone
that.
Everyone does every time they say that USC wide receiver. Now it's Nelson Aguilar.
It's the same thing with Washington. It's the same thing with Washington with a basketball player, a football player. I just can't. I can't get past it. Listen, they're going to take a wide receiver at some point in this draft because Howie just can't help himself. I will be, and there's guys I like. I like Olave. I like Jameson Williams. I like London. If they take a wide receiver over defensive guy, I'm going to be vehemently pissed because I'm done with it. I'm good. Like, you couldn't trade more than a.
I don't want to fully say that though. Like, I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you. Right? Like, I'm not looking at wide receiver, but I'm also going to and we're not in the draft room, right? But I'm a guy this year, especially, and every year really, is his best player available. Yeah. And if that creates a logjam, then so what? So what? Then you create more competition. So, like, if that guy's the best, right, and there's nothing on the board that we think better, then sure.
True. That's true. Yeah. That's true.
But no, that shouldn't be priority 1, 2, or 3 this year. But if guys go early and things fall, and you're like, okay, Olave is the best player on the board, then you got to take them.
Oh yeah. If we're stuck in a corner and we're either take, the 2 options, gun to head, it's either Linderbaum, the center, or a wide receiver. I'm going wide receiver. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying
to hear you, but because you're worried about logjam, but I'm worried about then. Okay, I have arguably one of the best centers coming out of college football in a while, so I can really shore that up. So
I would go Linderbaum. I like
Linderbaum when Kelsey retires. So now and I have Dillard. So now it's like my center to the left side of my line is taken care of essentially for the next 5 to 7 years per se. And now it's just, can I find a quarterback that allowed you guys to protect them?
No, you guys are absolutely right. That's where like the selfishness comes into play with me because
it's not sexy.
Well, it's not. Forget about it being sexy. It's that it's a year where you need first round assets to be day one starters, and you're taking a guy who's is not going to play for at least a year. Like,
but can he do what a Dickerson does, and can he play guard? I don't know that. I don't know. Most time, if you can play center, you can play guard. It's actually harder to play
most of the time, Because what you would have him battle it out with
Isaac.
Isaac. You have him battle Isaac, and if you can shift over. So hey, if he's better than Isaac, you play him. If Isaac beats him out, then Linderbaum sits a little bit. I mean, I think in a special case like Linderbaum, hypothetically, if we were to draft him in the first round, I think you can get away with not playing him a lot the first year because we all know the circumstance. We all know that Jason Kelsey's last year is this year. So it's not like your typical thing where like you're not playing him. What are you going to do with him? No, it's like you know what the plan is. You know that he's the eventual replacement of Kelsey beyond this year. So I think you'll get more leeway with being patient with that kind of pick, if that makes sense.
I honestly just look at it where, and Tom, like you brought it up when you came in. I brought it up a little bit earlier. I just don't see anything splashy happening. Like the Devonte Parker makes sense because it's not splashy. It's a guy who fills a role. You know, I just would be annoyed. And, Jesse was talking about Linderbaum or Jordan Davis, guaranteed a higher on how he's bored. And I would say that, and also probably Devonte Wyatt.
Devonte Wyatt, yeah.
Yeah. Which his infatuation with guys named Jalen and Davonte is beyond me. Especially if they get Devonte Parker in here, you're going to have 3 Devontes.
But you got to restock on Jalen's, man. You got to restock on Jalen's.
But Tom, like to what you said, to where like it's best player available, I think you and I would both agree, especially now that we know he's not 26. If Jordan Davis is on the board at 16, right, and they took Drake London, and then Jordan Davis goes at 17 and he's gone.
Oh, burning the Nova carrier.
Yeah, we're marching. We're going down. We're taking the whole ship down with us.
I mean, you have so many issues. You have a running back issue per se. Like, we don't know what that is. We have a bunch of guys coming back, and it's unknown. We don't have a star, right? We always hope that Miles' skill set could equal that. But again, if you don't play, you are what you are, right? And that's
ability is availability.
Yeah, because in terms of the skill set, like, explosive, right? Catch the ball out of the backfield, home run guy. Like, has all them tools, but can't stay on the field. So we have a running back problem. Now, I'm not suggesting you take a running back, but I'm also not saying you don't. Because if you keep all 3 picks, right? If you keep, running backs matter. If you keep all 3 picks and you look at Cook, or you look at Walker from Michigan State. If you look at those guys and you value them as first round guys, you're not drafting them in the top 10. So it doesn't. The money's not as big. Like, I'm against drafting running backs top 5. I'm against drafting running backs probably top 8. But 10 and on, I'm not against it. If that's the best player on the board and that guy can be an impact for you for 5 years, and you have an identity with what you have is which is running the football. I mean, listen, I think day one they have to target that. They absolutely do. I have no problem with Cook being a day one guy here. No problem. Because I think he has a skill set to be a day one guy. Kenneth Walker, probably more of a day 2, but I think he's more of a day 1. I just think running backs get pushed back in this league a little bit when if this is your identity, that's what you have to address, right? So if you went Linderbaum and let's say Cook and Jordan Davis, I'm leaving that draft saying, okay, you know how your team's built. Your team has always been built in the trenches, and you have arguably the best running attack in football last year, and you're trying to get better at that. That's saying, okay, this is our identity, and this is how we're going to attack it. That would actually be promising to me, but they won't do any of that.
Here's what's enticing. Remember that they reported the year that we took Jalen Hurts in the second round, the 2 guys that were going to be in consideration if it wasn't Hurts were Jeremy Chin, the safety, and J.K. Dobbins, the running back. And that was 2 years ago when we still had Miles. So if they were considering taking a running back after Miles, that was after Miles' second year, like, it gives me hope that they still would consider one if he's there. And you guys know that I love Miles, but I am all for taking a running back on round 1, round 2, depending on who it is. But I haven't been shy about my love for Kenneth Walker. I freaking love Kenneth Walker.
Who do you like more? Do you like Cook or do you like Walker better?
I like Walker more. I think Cook is a pure speed guy. He's one of the most electric and home run hitter guys. But to me, Walker is the type of guy. I mean, a lot of people comp him to J.K. Dobbins. I think he's better than J.K. Dobbins. I think Walker is one of the more special running backs I've seen in years. And it's funny. I messaged Ralphie today because I was just reviewing Walker tape because my video breakdown comes out next week for him, so I'm preparing everything. So I'm rewatching his tape, and I'm just like, yo, like I'm sorry to say off airways, but I'm getting hard watching him. Like he's so good. He's so freaking good. And if I could only hope the Eagles would consider taking him. Love Kenneth Walker.
It's good too because, and granted, like we're just around like a month out from the draft, so this could obviously change. Guys could rise up and all that stuff. But right now, the first running back projected to come off the board, just guess, and this is Tankathon, right? And I think they do a good job of just like nobody has any idea, right? Like nobody, even the Mel Kipers of the world. But I think they do a good job of projecting in real time where guys are going to land. Guess what pick they have the first running back being taken?
20,
outside of the first round.
20 something.
Chuck, what did you say?
I say outside of the first round. I'd say probably late 30s.
44.
Wow, that was close.
I disagree with that. And Chuck, I don't disagree with you about Walker. I can make arguments for both being better. I think our style of football, James Cook's a better option for us. He does more out of the backfield too. He's electric out of the backfield, catching the football.
Oh yeah, he's like a receiver. He's like a receiver too.
And just his home run threat, I think it fits the RPO way better. Way, like if we want to be explosive with a running game, right? Because you can be, hey, we want to get 4 yards of carry and pound you, which is more Kenneth Walker style, right? Or you can say, hey, we want to cut your throat. And I think James Cook's more of fits the RPO game because of his explosiveness. And I think that then allows Hurts, right, to do more. Make sense? It almost opens up more where Kenneth is a little bit slower. I don't know. I don't care about his 40 times. Just my eyes tell me he's a little bit slower. He's a little bit more of a pound guy. And I love that. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of guys who can lower shoulder and run through you. I'm looking at Cook's stuff right now again. And running between the tackles is not a problem. And I'm a big pedigree guy, man. I'm a big pedigree guy. I love a good tree. And, his brother arguably is the best running back in football. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for me to like that. And 44, so who do they have going first? Walker?
So you guys are going to flip out on this because they have James Cook being the fourth running back off the board, which is good for great for us because that means we can take these guys later. Like that's awesome.
I got to look at his numbers. I mean,
so here's the thing. Ryan, let me guess. Is it Breece Hall the first running back?
I'll just give you the rundown because they only have 5. They have a top. They have 6. The top 6. They have Breece Hall, Iowa State going 44. Yeah. They have Kenneth Walker going 51. They have Isaiah Spiller, Texas A&M, going 63. James Cook, 91. Zamir White, who was the teammate of James Cook, going 96. And Kyron Williams, Notre Dame, going 99.
I don't agree with that. So I think with Cook, here's my question with Cook. So I love his dynamic ability. There aren't a lot of running backs as fast as James Cook this year. I'm just going to say that. So, yeah, obviously Kenneth Walker is going to be slower, but Kenneth Walker still has good speed. So, like, if you watch him, his burst is really good, and he has enough speed to pull away for long runs. So that doesn't worry me. And Kenneth Walker is elusive as shit. So that's why I love Kenneth Walker is my top running back. The thing that worries me about James Cook, he's 190 pounds. So even though he has the willingness to run in between the tackles, I do worry about his frame and him being able to hold up if he's asked to run between the tackles consistently. That's like he would have to be a guy that's used like Alvin Kamara, where you have him carry the rock maybe around 10.
I know we hate the Saints, but we would we be mad about it if he's Alvin Kamara?
No, we wouldn't be bad. I'm saying I'm talking about usage.
Yeah.
Talking about usage. So like,
you worried about Kenneth Walker's workload because that's the difference here. When you talk about James Cook, he comes in with a workload that's a little bit lesser, about 100 carries a season type deal. But every year is average over 6 yards a carry, which is impressive to me. That's the home run threat, obviously. Not saying Walker didn't. I mean, he averaged over 6 yards a carry this year too. 18 touchdowns, hard to pass up on. So I can't argue with you that Walker's better. Like, you know what I mean? I can't argue that because he's more of a 3-down back per se.
Yeah.
But in today's game, like the 190 doesn't worry me because I watch guys that don't take big hits, right, or are elusive enough, like Alvin, right, that they don't. The wear and tear is what it is. They're both going to go through the same wear and tear with hits. So but the good thing about this is they don't have anybody going in the first round. So maybe we get one of these guys in the second, right, or third, Chucks, because Spiller's another guy I like too. I mean, there's three guys that I really like. Who was the fourth that you said, right? Who was projected?
Breece Hall.
From where?
He's so good. He's so good.
Iowa State.
I got to watch him. I've not. Yeah,
Tom, my video for him just came out today. Watch him.
That's the one you just did today because I just like it.
He's so. Oh my god.
What's his full name again?
Breece.
Hall. Yeah, Breece.
B-R-E-E-C-E.
I always call him Bruce because I've never heard of Breece.
Bruce or Bryce?
Breece.
Yeah. Seriously, it's like, is it Bryce or Bruce? No, it's Bruce.
So another guy who's had a big workload the last 2 years. I mean, okay, so in 3 years of football, freshman, sophomore, senior, he's had 718 carries.
Oh my god.
718. That's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah.
That reminds me of the Singletary from Buffalo, where he before he was even drafted, it was like, okay, this guy's gonna have a 3-year career.
Probably seen this guy play and just didn't.
One of the guys you mentioned, Ryan, who I'm not as high on as most people, is Kyron Williams. Kyron, I don't know if you've watched him or if you've done.
Where does he go to school again, Chuck?
Notre Dame, little guy.
Notre Dame.
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I pass on Notre Dame.
He's a little guy. He's the smallest running back in this class.
Okay, so Cook's 190. What's he?
185. On the same. He's sub 200.
They have him listed as 185 on my.
But here's the thing, guys. This is what I'm worried about. So while he's sub 200, so he's less than 200 pounds, his game isn't. He's not a dynamic home run hitter. He's more of an interior power guy.
Huh?
So, like, to me, something's not adding up. Like, you're 190 pounds. You're 5'9", 190 pounds. But you play like a physical style of running. You're not going to hold up.
That also tells me their defensive lines that they went up against absolutely sucked. An under an 85-pounder powering you down the line.
Brian, my video of him was last week. Watch it. You'll see. Like, to me, he's kind of like he's a day 3 guy that you take to be like your third down, change of pace guy who can catch balls out of the back because he's a converted wide receiver. So he has wide receiver skills. So he's like a third down guy, but I don't see how you can give him the ball and expect him to be what he was in college. Like, he's not, unless if he can add 20 pounds to his frame, you're not going to hold up at 195. You're just not. Like, not with. It's one thing to be 190 and be like Cook, where you have elite speed and you play in space because you're not going to take a bunch of hits. But when you're Kyron Williams and you're 190 and your game is about taking hits, that's when I'm starting to get worried. That's where I'm like, I don't know. Like, I have a day 3 grade on him, but a lot of people are talking about him on day 2, and I'm like, I don't see it. Like, I'd rather have Cook over Kyron. Absolutely.
You know what's funny too? In this entire conversation, and again, there's nothing wrong with taking somebody in the draft, especially because it's cost efficient and all that, and that's something the Eagles do more often. But it shows that they're not willing to put any. I don't want to say any stock, but they're not going to make any splashy moves. They're not going to put any eggs in the basket for this season because. Going and just using your eyes that they're a run-heavy offense. That's the only reason, really, why they got into the postseason to begin with. So you look around the league, and I know Fournette got paid, but you look at guys who can be day one difference makers that are already in the league. Melvin Gordon, who's still out there. Guys that you don't have to replace Melvin Gordon with Miles Sanders or Miles Sanders with Melvin Gordon. You can fill a role alongside of them. And they're not even looking at those guys, right? They're more for those, okay, we got Miles a few years ago. We got Gainwell last year. We're going to get another guy this year. You know, a lot of people were saying Hassan Haskins later in the draft. I think we would all be fine with that.
Yeah, not against it. Yeah, this kid's a big boy.
Brees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He really puts his foot in the ground all over the place. Well,
Yeah. Total package.
He catches it well too. So
Yep.
I mean, maybe you can't go wrong. I just look at it like I just want explosiveness. You know, I'm really begging for, and he's explosive too. But I mean, who played against the best competition in college football? That would be James Cook, constantly, even more so than Kenneth Walker, who played against good competition. I'm not going to poo-poo the Big Ten, right? I'm just going to poo-poo the speed of the Big Ten because we saw that in the college football playoffs, right? Yearly, the speed of the Big Ten just does not match up. It just never has, right? In some weird way, never has. But there's a lot of great running backs who came from the Big Ten. Right, if you look at that, there's a lot of damn good running backs in this league that are Big Ten guys. So it doesn't matter. That doesn't really matter. I just look at like, man, you're a champion, right? We talked about this last year, right? We had a lot of conversations on drafting culture guys, drafting winners, right? And I was thinking I was in with Justin Jefferson. That's why I wanted him at that point, because he was a winner. I want to fill my locker room with as many guys that know what it takes to win. All right, and it has the confidence of winners. So last year we went Davonte and Dickerson, 2 winners. Big fan of that. Do it again. And that can be in the 3rd round, can be in the 2nd round. I don't care. But go get a guy. Go get me 2 or 3 Georgia guys. I don't care. Go get
just switch the location. Just switch the location.
And you give me more Bama guys. Go. I'm not saying the SEC is the end all be all, but those 2 programs are the programs I sort of want to build my team around. So I mean, I don't think you can go wrong. I think all 4 of those running backs we talked about are damn good and exciting. So, I don't know if you can go wrong, especially day 2, right? Like, I don't think you can go wrong.
Tom, what have I told you for years? My favorite day of the draft is day 2. I love day 2, rounds 2 and 3, because that's when you get the most value. You get the guys that are falling from round 1 to the round 2, and now you're getting them at a later pick, but they're still awesome talent. Like, and plus with running backs, day 2 is a gold mine for running backs because of the value they drop. So I love day 2. I think I wouldn't be surprised if no running backs get taken in round 1. But hey, if that happens, then so be it. Because then round 2 is just gonna be a lot of fun for
field day for you, Chucks. It's gonna be a field day for you.
Oh, it's gonna be. I'm gonna be
here in Tankathon now. I don't think they're gonna. Obviously, nobody's gonna go there in the 1st round.
I mean, we did have Najee and what's his face?
Kid from Clemson.
Yeah, the guy from God. Why can't I remember his name now?
ETN.
He got hurt for a year.
Travis Etienne.
Yeah. They both went in the 1st round, which did surprise some people. But I mean, they were good talents. So they went in the 1st round.
Right. They were the Jags 2nd, almost at the end of the 1st round. Bill, my question to you is about this. Okay, would I rather have 3 and 19? Absolutely, because I feel like I get a star at 3. But what am I drafting at 3, Bill, is the question. Am I drafting a quarterback at 3? Am I drafting? I don't know. You got to give me another name. Like, I'm not Aiden Hutchinson. Get out of my face. I don't think he's a star in this league. And I'm just being honest with the people. He's not going to be a star. Is he going to be a really good defense end? Sure. But if you draft him 1, you just failed. I'm just going to tell people that right now. You failed.
Tom and Chuck's and then the fam. Bill, he might have a different response, but say 3 is Thibodeau.
Wait, are you asking if we trade up?
Yeah.
If we
trade 15 and 16 to get to 3.
Yes.
3 and then have 3.
15 and 16 is enough to get to 3. I really doubt that.
That's what he says.
It definitely is. It definitely is, Chuck.
It's enough to get to 3?
Wow. And he's probably taking out a later round pick. You know what I'm saying? I think he's just saying like
probably got to throw 5 around there, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm
a
sure.
Future 3rd, maybe. That's enough.
I'll ask you this. Like, yes, Ryan. Yes, for the defense end from Oregon, yeah, I'm all in. Right, because I can't have as many. Like I just said about Barnett, I can't have enough defense ends. Like I want to pressure the fuck out of people. That's my MO. I want to bring it, and we know Gannon ain't blitzing, so we better have a front that can go get you.
But here's what I'm asking, because I haven't fully studied defensive ends yet. I'm still on wide receivers and just started safeties. So is the drop off from Thibodeau down to the next set of guys? Like, I know people throw out Jermaine Johnson, right? So, like, is that drop off enough of a drop off where you'd say, yeah, I would give up 15 and 16 for Thibodeau? Or would you rather stay at 15 and say, hey, Jermaine Johnson or other guys in that tier 2, are still really good studs where I'm good with sticking at 15? I think that's the question you got to ask. I can't answer that yet because I haven't studied these guys, but I don't know what you guys think. Like, to me, because what I've heard from people is that this class is deep from, especially on the defensive end, in that mid to late first round area. So
Nothing
where the Eagles have their picks that's like a really good sweet spot for us. So that when I was hearing that, it kind of gave me pause to trade up because I'm like, is it worth it when we can get a really good guy by just staying pat? But I don't know. Again, I didn't study everything.
I mean, it's fair. I just need star power, and there's no guarantees, right? You can go all the way up there and get him, right? You get the kid from Oregon, and he doesn't pan out, right? You can sit at 15 and get somebody else, and that guy ends up becoming a star. So there's no guarantees. But my close thing they'll guarantee is going up there. Because if the Eagles go up for a D end, they're probably going to hit it, right? Now I ask you, I'll just revisit this 3 and 19 again, and I want to ask you guys, hypothetically, if people are believing that quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10, and maybe 2 can go, maybe next thing you know 3 go, right? You never know how that shakes out, right? It all depends when the first one goes, because then it becomes a domino, right? We know how the draft works. Everything's a domino. So would you, if you went up to 3, would you be mad if that was Malik Willis, Corral, etc.?
I think I'd be mad.
Ryan,
I'd be mad.
Yeah, I'd be throwing things. Yeah.
I think I'd be mad.
Yeah.
Okay. I want it. And I'll tell you why. Because I know the guy I have can't. I know he can't. So worst case, I go up and get him, and maybe Malik Willis can't play. I don't know. I don't know. Right? I don't know about these quarterbacks this year. That's why I trade a pick and I wait for next year and I stockpile. But you have 2 options here. You let Jalen Hurts start this year and he plays it out, and if he ends up being the guy, then great. Then you deal Willis, right? Or Hurts ain't the guy, and then hopefully you have your guy, right? If it's whatever guy. So I wouldn't be mad. Like, I wouldn't, if they left the draft with Malik Willis and Jordan Davis, say, like, I'm not mad. I'm not going to be like throwing things. I'm going to be like, okay, they know what I know, right? And what I know is the guy you have can't play enough. So we all know the same thing. So we see eye to eye. Now, do I think Malik Willis is the guy? I don't know yet. I got to really see him play at a high level to really know. And I think we all do. Nobody can say that any of these quarterbacks can be franchise guys or can't be. That's so unknown right now. And that's usually unknown most of the time. Like, there's no guarantees. Like, Lawrence isn't a guarantee. We all think he is, but there's no guarantees with any of this stuff.
To be honest with you, and listen.
Also a great kid too, Malik Willis. Another A-pluser.
The reason why I'd be mad at it is, like, listen, there's no disagreements. You know this on the stance with Jalen Hurts. I completely agree with you on that. I look at, for example, what the 49ers did last year, right? They knew they had a guy in Garoppolo that was good, but, they obviously got to the Super Bowl with him once, but he's not good enough, right? They're going to win based off of other things, not just him. And what they did was they traded up for a guy that we were all saying, Tom, we were obviously live during the thing. We were like, okay, it felt like they just traded up because they needed to, right? Just because. And where they are 12 months later, I feel like the 49ers are one of the organizations that are absolutely pissed because, like, listen, hindsight's 2020. They had no idea, like nobody did, had any idea that the entire quarterback market was going to literally burst into flames like it has. But if they would have just have been, I don't want to say patient with Garoppolo, but wouldn't have given up 3 first-round picks and then some for a guy who they knew was not going to play for at least a year, most likely 2 because of the Garoppolo contract, they would have been at the top of the list for assets and also interest from the players to get a Deshaun Watson, to get a Matt Ryan, for example. all guys that are day one difference makers. And on the flip side, I have no idea what Trey Lance is. I don't think nobody does.
Yeah, and that's what they think. I mean, they think they know what he is, and if you believe in a guy, then go get him. I'm not a Trey Lance guy, but if you believe in a guy, I got no problem with teams giving up assets and going up and getting your guy, right? I always believe in that. So I'm never going to say, like, you do way more homework than I do. So, if you believe that's your guy, yeah, maybe you know something I don't know, right? I mean, my eyes are usually more like 75-25 with this stuff, like where I'm like, I'm not a Trey Lance guy.
But teams get the interviews. They get the interviews. They get all these medicals. Like, how are we supposed to know all this stuff behind the scenes? We don't. They have their own investigators.
And they got private investigators.
Like, they have so much stuff we don't know, which is
like draft day when he's like, watch the hit one more time, right? Like on draft day when he's like, watch me hit him again and again and watch what he does, right? And then you're like, oh, I didn't know that, right? So it's like, everybody thinks they're going up for the quarterback. We got you.
And also you might not know if the teammates showed up or didn't show up to a birthday party. That's also very important too.
Yeah, right. Nobody showed up. So you learn about guys. So, that's the thing we knew about Hurts, right? We knew he was a big character guy and people are going to play hard around him. And that's a sad thing. Like, man, Jalen Hurts is everything besides throwing the football that I want in my quarterback, but he just can't throw it enough. Now, can he fix it? Maybe he can. Maybe he can't. Time will tell. But I would not be like furious if they went quarterback. Like I would just say, okay, you see what I see, and let's see how it unfolds. I mean, but that being said, you drafted this guy in the second round, so you obviously believe that he can play enough. So now you got to go build a football team around him.
Okay. So I'll ask you this then. You wouldn't be mad if they went quarterback if they traded up, or are you saying you wouldn't be mad if they went quarterback at any point in the first round?
I say trade up.
Okay.
Because you're really honing in on somebody.
You're committing. Committing.
Like I was saying, like you've done interviews with these guys. Like you really believe in what you're going up for. Now saying at 15, I'm not saying you don't believe it, right? But if two quarterbacks go and you take Pickett, I'm like, are you settling?
Well,
I have question marks.
We talked about this a couple Mondays ago, you and I, that, there were people in the chat saying there were zero chance that they use the third pick or they use 3 picks, at however order it is, right? And I think you and I both looked each other in the eye and we glared at it. And then we said a couple minutes later, the only way they take 3 picks is if there's a quarterback sitting there at some point and they believe that quarterback isn't where he's supposed to be. Like,
you know who that is,
that
right?
guy's still here. Pickett?
You know who it is.
Pickett?
To me, it's Pickett or Willis to them. I do not believe in Kenny Pickett. I am not a hands guy in cold weather, right? I'm just not a baby hands in cold weather. And somehow his hand grew 1/8 of an inch from the combine to his pro day, which is amazing. The first time in history a hand grew on a player, and he's older.
My hands never grow. Oh my god, I'm so pissed.
It's funny too. Like
Willis has way more upside.
He does.
Yeah.
He's erratic as hell in like the mid range, but again, I can live with that if I know he's going to develop over the years. You know what I'm saying? Like I can deal with that just because of the upside.
Like I don't know. Like I've seen a lot of guys throwing shorts in a t-shirt, and I don't want to overrate that. Like, and I'm like anti-pro. I'm anti-pro days. I'm anti-combine. I'm. What did you do on tape per se? What did you do when I watched you? I don't care about your 40 time. I don't care. It means absolutely nothing to me. It never has. Like most guys who run grade 40 stink, right? And they get drafted in the first round, they end up stinking. It happens all the time. We can name a bunch of
John Ross.
Yeah, John Ross, right? Like I can't a freaking team. So, like, I don't know. Like,
there's one guy, and it's funny how like we all have like our preference, right? But at the end of the day, nobody has any idea like who's gonna work, because also it depends on where they land. That's the biggest thing. But like if we went Jordan Davis, Matt Corral, and then you took a corner, right? Whatever. I'm like, you ever see that meme with like the kid on the swing set with the fire in the background? I'm that kid on the swing set. You know what I'm saying? Where like the entire world is melting because the Eagles took a quarterback again. They used 3 picks. It wasn't Willis or Pickett. It was Corral. Everyone would be freaking out. But Tom, you and we've talked about this before. Corral's like my guy. There's just something about him, and I've watched a lot of them. That's the one where we'd be on the air. Everyone's flipping out, and I'm just sitting in the corner just grinning.
And you'd be content.
Yeah, like I wouldn't be celebrating, right? Like I wouldn't be doing that. I'd just be like, that's interesting. This is interesting. This is different.
Oh God.
The problem with Matt is a little tiny to me. The size like worries me. The thing about I feel like I don't know if this is true, but I feel like Malik Willis is bigger than him. At least
he's
stockier. Yeah, he's stockier.
Stockier muscle.
What's the height? What's the height difference here?
Let me see.
Are they like the same?
Let's see. I'll go to the big board. Quarterback, Matt Corral. Matt Corral is 6'1". Malik Willis is 6'1". The only difference is Malik Willis is 215. Matt Corral is 205.
And I would argue that Malik is a better thrower of the football right now. And that's saying a lot on how people look at him. Like I'm just watching him right now, and listen, this is a highlight film, right? So there's not gonna be bad balls, right? For both guys. But if you're watching some of the arm angles he's able to throw the football from, I'm just telling you, that's the best quarterback in this draft. Like what teams are going to think, because he's throwing like he's throwing sidearm zips. He's throwing balls on the run like sidearm zips. Like it's almost
he's improving. He's
it's almost like Mahomes. Like he can throw from all angles. Like and dude, you want to talk about a cannon? Devonte Smith might have like 1,500 yards with this guy. Quez Watkins, those 5 touchdowns that he was wide open on, like he's going to make that throw. Like he's going to hit the deep ball. So I don't know. It's tough. It's tough because we're in a great spot. We have a lot of assets, but like I got no problem taking Wills. I got no problem taking Matt Corral. Those are my two best in this draft, and then it's like,
Yeah, I think after that, if they take what my real fear is, Tom, to be completely honest, that I do think gun ahead they're going to trade one of these back, and they're going to end up with like pick 27. Like that's why I was saying to Chuck. So like I could see that 27th pick being a Jabo because I think that 5th year is big for a guy like a Jabo because he's somebody that I don't think he's really going to show what he is until like year 3. And then you have kind of a 2-year window where you don't have to be forced into signing him on a 1-year sample size and all that. So I think that's big. But my other fear is that they trade back to pick 27-ish, and that pick is Sam Howell or Carson Strong.
Oh, Sam Howell.
And that I have no time for. I have no time for this.
No, I don't want Band-Aids.
No.
Right? I want difference makers. And I want you guys, like when you get time, I want you to go to YouTube and I want you to watch a little bit of this because we weren't, we don't get a lot of Liberty games, right? You're not getting a lot of Liberty games, but like that throw in the bucket, I think he's done like twice on this tape right here. Like he's done it twice where he's rolling and just dropping balls in the bucket on guys. And the arm strength is incredible. So, that's what you need, especially playing in cold weather. And then it doesn't really change your offense because you are like an RPO, and that's sort of what both Matt Corral and Malik Willis are. They're RPO guys, and they both can deliver it. I would say Willis has the biggest arm in this draft, though, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a guy not only with a big arm because a lot of guys have big arms. They're NFL quarterbacks, but like a big arm that's also delivering balls on time and strikes. Like here's another one, dude. Nothing's like, okay, I'm going deep here. Nothing's on this shoulder. Nothing he's throwing is on this shoulder. Everything is bucket. I don't know. I just fell fucking in love. This is a problem.
Hey, tis the season. We're about a month out. I need you two to talk me off a ledge about something, okay? Because I almost brought this up last week on one of our shows, Tom.
Okay.
But I didn't want to deflect from like the Sixers stuff that we were talking about last week. And this isn't out of the blue. I've been on this for like 9 months, and I'm looking around the league, and I have a fear that's growing in the back of my head. I'm not rooting for it. It's just a fear. So there's a guy floating around. That's not a draft guy. Somebody who's already in the league. I may have brought him up a couple minutes ago. That I have been saying I could see Howie, because he can't control himself, going out and bringing in. as time keeps going around, I see possible destinations for this guy disappearing. To where I can only argue maybe there's two teams that would make sense. You get around draft time, passes. You don't take a quarterback. You get into around May, nothing. June, nothing. I still believe there is a serious chance that Howie Roseman would trade a mid-round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, God, no.
My question to you is, why does that even make sense, though?
No.
Like, it doesn't. It just doesn't.
It doesn't make sense. No.
It doesn't. It's not. Listen, you got to understand something. You know this, right? You've been around this long enough. He's not looking for a Band-Aid. He's never going to be looking for a replacement. Howie, the one thing I'll give him,
that makes sense.
he's always looking for franchise. He's looking for franchise changers. And all due respect to Jimmy, he's a winner. He's always one of the last guys standing. But he's not a franchise quarterback. And I give Howie Roseman a lot of shit. But I can't believe that he would be dumb enough to believe that guy is now worth benching Jalen Hurts over. Like, we thought about Jalen throwing the football. I mean, Jimmy can't move and can't throw the football, right?
And he can't stay healthy.
So, like, as much as it makes sense, and I understand what you're saying, and listen, anything's possible, okay? But I just don't believe that Howie Roseman is in the business for Band-Aid quarterbacks. No. That's not him. He's in the business for franchise guy. So if he believes one of these guys in the drafts are that type of guy, that's where Howie Hero comes in and moves and shakes and goes and gets his guy. I'll give him credit for the things I got to give him credit for. He's never failed me in believing, hey, that's a franchise guy. I'm going to go get him.
Yeah, he doesn't do the mediocre route.
Sure, but he doesn't go for the mediocre guy.
Yeah.
And if he does, like it hurts, where it was never to replace, it just so happened.
Yeah.
It was insurance policy, and he said that. So he now knows, like, okay, well, this is insurance policy. And if he doesn't believe he's the guy, he's going to go get himself a guy.
Yeah. I'm the same. I think it's a lateral move if you make it, but it's a lateral move that doesn't make sense because, like, you know what, like we all say we know what Hurts is, in the sense that we none of us really believe he's the franchise quarterback, but with him being so young, there is still room for improvement. But with Jimmy G, you know what Jimmy G is. You need, like, he is what he is. There's no more progression. There's no more development of him. Like, he is what he is. I mean, he's a middle of the road quarterback. It doesn't make sense to go to him when there's really no future. He's not going to be the answer. So whether you think Jimmy G is better than Hurts or not, it doesn't matter because he's not the franchise quarterback. So he's not going to – I don't see that happening. I don't want that to happen. I would bet that it doesn't happen. So I wouldn't worry. To me, I wouldn't worry about any of those type of rumors. Jimmy G is going to go to a team like Carolina or I don't know. That's where I think he's going to.
No, and I think Matt Corral and Malik Willis are both franchise style quarterbacks. Like, I believe they're guys that you're going to draft and you're going to expect them guys to play for the next 10 years for your team. And you know, Pete's right where, you know, you don't see a lot of Malik thrown over the middle more, and you see more of that with Matt Corral. And he obviously played against bigger competition, which semi matters to me. It's not the end all be all, but you're playing the SEC. You've sort of seen it all. You're seeing real schemes, in my opinion. You're seeing it's a faster game. And I really like that, like Matt Corral's character to play in the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
He's a killer. Yeah,
matters to me because you want to win. You care about the guys next to you, and he gets banged up in that game. It's fitting. But I'll say it again, right? Like, and Chucks, I'm good with either one. I think Matt Corral does a really good job. And doesn't get credit for it of really going through progressions for a guy who can run and do the things he does. So, I mean, they're literally like 1A, 1B. I don't care how you rank them. To me, you can rank Matt 1 and Malik 2. And I'm really would go to bed with either one and be like, all right, let's go. We're in a good spot. And one of them can absolutely be there at 15. Yeah. Absolutely can. Or, hey, right, Chucks? Hey, like, you know, say 10. Say 10 from 15 to 10. You don't have to give up the world, right? You really don't. So if that guy's
a little bit, yeah.
If that guy's there, one of them two fall. You got it. Listen, I'm going to yell and scream at this. You have to go get them. Jalen's a great kid, but if you look at these two guys throw the football, man, it ain't even close.
Now, if we do that, Do we trade Hurts immediately?
No.
Like, what do you guys think? Do you
No,
think
Yes. I think you have to. Because you don't want that. You already have Gardner under contract. You have a backup quarterback per se, and now maybe that's where Carolina comes in. That's where you dangle him to Carolina, and then maybe Carolina gives you a second or third back for him, right? Which you could very well get from him, probably a third. But then
Seattle, maybe Seattle will take over.
Seattle, which is the perfect replacement for a guy like Russ, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So, listen, do you really think they believe in him? Like, do you guys think that they really believe that he can win them a Super Bowl? Because that's the end. That's
you talking about Eagles with Hurts?
Yes. Like, do you think Howie and this staff believes in him?
I don't believe so. I think they love the kid. So they're doing what they can to support him, and they don't. I think they love him, but I go back to this, and I think you touched on it. He was never supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the backup, and the reason why he was taken early is because they prioritized the backup QB position more than any team in the league. So they're going to reach for a backup. That's why they took Hurts. And I think they love Hurts, but I don't think they really believe he's the franchise guy.
It was a science.
Say that. They're not going to go out and say that because, one, they're not that dumb. And two, they like him. So they're going to support him while he's here.
It's like almost like you're crying in a corner. Like, he's such a good kid. Like, I don't want to do this to the kid. And that's how I feel a little bit about it, too.
Yeah.
But I'm in the business of winning championships. I'm in the business of going to NFC title games. I'm not in the business of feel-good stories. Like, guy's great, man. He brings me, he delivers my groceries. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he cleans up after himself. Like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. We just watched a serial freaking massage gate get the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL and never had to answer a question. Never had to. Sorry, I got to go on a rant real quick. Never had to answer a question. I'm not telling you the guy's guilty. For the morons that want to try to debate me, I'm not telling you he's guilty. I don't know. I'm not a judge and jury, honey. But what I am is I have questions. And if I'm an oppressor, my first question to him, the opportunity that I get, is why did you need 22 masseuses? Because I've never heard of it. I've never heard of guys have a few that they trust. 22 sound like people were getting rid of you for reasons. That's what it sounds like. Now, that might not be right, but I got to answer. I need an answer to that question. And if nobody out there cares enough, then you're the problem you're the same problem the NFL is. The fact that the NFL allowed the Cleveland Browns to give the most guaranteed money in the history of this game and change the standard of this league now, which this league is so good and so competitive because you don't guarantee it all. Because you can't just go through motions. That's what makes the NFL the best product around, is because percentages of your money is guaranteed, not the whole deal. You gotta make a roster to get your money for that year, right? That's how it's set up, guys. So set up for guys that have to compete year in and year out, right? Understand that. That's what makes it the best sport around, per se. Now, you just change the landscape. And I don't care about changing the landscape. Give guys whatever money they want. These guys are billionaire owners. I don't care. But the fact is, how is this money being given? And he has never had to say a word. A word. That's not weird to you guys?
It's true with how he did Captain.
This true tomorrow. I'm not sure what I'm not happy right now. And you don't have an opinion with an opinion, right? And have questions, right? And my opinion might be bullshit. I don't know, but I think it's fair to ask, like, why 22 masseuses?
It's true.
And why have you not said a word? You have not said a word.
His press conference is tomorrow.
It's
true.
Okay.
It is
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Oh my God! If nobody asked that question, this is the biggest scandal of all time. If nobody in that room, I'm gonna be all in on this. If nobody in that room, and we're another crumb in the day, says, "Hey, Deshaun, no disrespect, but why 22 of them? For the first 5, they didn't rub good enough."
It's gonna. You know what? It's going to watch. I'm telling you, Don't be surprised if it's one of those press conferences where no one's allowed to ask questions. They're just going to make statements. They're just going to go out there. They're going to read a statement, and that's it. Don't be surprised. I'm just telling you. Because you know that, like, they are worried about the questions that will be asked. So don't be surprised.
To answer your other question too, Tom, like with the, do they believe in Hurts and everything? It's kind of twofold. Not to repeat what you and Chuck said, but it's like it was almost like it was like a failed science experiment. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, we're going to use the second round draft asset on an insurance policy, and it just all went wrong. The second thing is, and this is why it's frustrating. This is why, you look at it to where, like, it's clear to all of us that they're not putting all of their eggs in the basket for this season. They're looking at 2023, but the problem is it didn't need to be like this because, like, I'll ask you, Tom was going to rejoin in a second. Like, I'll ask you, Chucks, and I'll ask the fam, like, just gut feeling before we even look at the rosters. Who are the truly great teams in the NFC right now? And this is pre-draft, so I know this can change, but, like, right now, who are the teams that are, like, at the top for you?
Is that
the
better?
Great teams. Yeah,
Rams.
you were fine. You were fine. I didn't think there was anything wrong with your audio.
I don't know if it was me, so I just was like, let me get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on any of it.
Bucks, Rams, off the top of my head.
Okay.
What was the question? Sorry, Ryan.
So I was saying, like, it's frustrating that we're kind of in another stalemate year. We're not going all in because, like, gun to head, who are the truly great teams right now in the NFC pre-draft? Like, I know it can change a little bit,
Bucks,
even
Rams.
though I think it's Bucks Rams, right? Would you add a third team to that, Tom?
Yeah, I can. I can, just because of a certain guy, but I don't believe that they're Super Bowl contenders. I believe they're at max NFC guys, and then they're out again, and that's the Green Bay Packers. As long as you have that man, as long as you have that man, you're always in the mix to me. But you're not to the level with losing Adams. You're not to the level of those other teams, but you're right in the mix because they're probably going to draft a wide out. They're going to get him help. They're not, Devontae Parker could end up going there. That's a name. Like they're going to get him help. They signed him to a lot of money. There's no way they signed him to a lot of money, and they're going to make him a lame duck here with no help. Devontae left because he got to go play with a great friend, and that's Derek Carr, right? And that's why.
I was a Raiders fan. I just realized that.
You grew up a Raiders fan. You said, Chucks?
Yeah.
It was like a combo. Derek Carr's like one of his best friends, and he grew up a Raiders fan. And let me tell you something. They're the sleeper over in the AFC. They're the people ain't nobody going to be talking about, and you all better watch out because everybody's crowning the Browns and crowning everybody else.
Crowning the Browns. Who's crowning the Browns? Anyone crowning the Browns?
Rightfully so. The Browns arguably could have a top 10 defense and Deshaun Watson. So, pretty good.
Yeah, I need to see it first. They've been. I picked them to win that division last year. They severely they disappointed me. So for me, maybe I'm just bitter because they disappointed me last year. But I need to see it before I say, "Hey, the Browns are a favorite to win anything."
So who are your three top teams then in the AFC?
Everyone in the AFC West.
Right.
Plus the Buffalo Bills.
Could you imagine that gauntlet? Thank God Thank God. I'd rather be stalemate, right, than have to go through that gauntlet.
Well, thank God. It's like the freaking Western Conference of the NBA times 50. You know what I'm saying? Like what it was a couple years ago to where it's just not fair. It's not fair anymore.
Yep.
Watch out for Indy.
I was just say, do you want 1, 2, 3 like in order?
You don't have to rank them. You can just tell me like who you think your top three are. Tough, man. It's tough.
Well, you know me. I like a good ranking, so I'll get handsy. I'll go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, you're right.
Not Deshaun Watson handsy. I'll get handsy with the rankings. I will go. Listen, I know that we haven't seen it before. I'm going to go Broncos 1.
Okay. I love their offense.
I'm going to go Chargers 2.
I love their offense.
Yep.
I love their defense.
I'm going to go Bills. I'm going to go Bills 3.
Okay.
I so badly wanted to put the Colts on there. The Colts are probably 4 for me.
Chargers are perennial losers to me. And until you change that, you don't get in my top 3.
That's fair. That's fair.
That is fair.
All the talent in the world.
Yeah.
On paper, top 3. right? But and they're in a gauntlet of the division too, right?
Yeah.
So
They can end up third, which is disgusting.
they can end up like 9-8. You know what I mean? Again,
Chargers are gonna Charger.
no specific order with this. I'll go Vegas because I really truly like their offense. I mean, Hunter Renfrow sort of goes unnoticed here as like a slot guy with Davonte outside. I mean, they got and then Darren Waller. I mean, they're explosive. I think their defense is a little underrated, and they do some really good things. So I like Vegas.
Their line still concerns me. That's the only thing. Their offensive line, but they can address that in the draft.
We're sort of assuming that, right? Like these teams do that.
Yeah.
Man, I want to go Denver right with you because I mean I love Jerry Jeudy. I like I love their defense. I'm a big Patrick guy. You know that, right?
Justin Simmons.
Yeah, they're good. So I'll put
Davonte. I love me some Davonte.
They've been ready for about 4 years. They just haven't had somebody to throw.
They haven't had.
We're the new Broncos. We're the new Broncos, Tom. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. We're the new Broncos.
Teddy Hurts.
Yeah.
The next one's so tough.
I can't narrow it down to 3 teams. That's why I'm not even going to try. There's so many. You
know, Tre'Davious White's coming back for the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah,
he is.
Arguably the best corner in football. They don't have an easy division because I think the Jets are going to get better because I think Wilson's going to get better.
Yes.
I do like him. Miami's only going to be better. Now, maybe not because I really like the culture of the coach down there, but I also love the hiring of who they went out and hired too. So
McDaniel,
I really like McDaniel. I think Miami's gonna be really good too, obviously, and New England's gonna be New England, but I still like the Buffalo Bills a lot. Can they run the football enough? Can they create that type of identity? That's their missing thing. And if I'm the Buffalo Bills, I know they signed somebody, but nobody of like that. I'm running to the for that.
The wide receiver, Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, but no, didn't they get a running back too? The Bills.
It was Matt Breida.
Yeah, like a small one.
Breida went somewhere else. Breida went to the Giants, I think.
Was it the guy who used to be on the Giants then? Who was the backup who played for Saquon last year on the Giants?
Right.
But they didn't go and get the, you know what I mean?
It was a marginal guy, whoever it is.
Yeah. I don't remember. That's why I don't remember, because it was a marginal guy.
To be honest with you, Tom, like the one thing, and it's funny because I was going to bring up this team of how loaded the AFC is. Okay, so when you talk about, and this is no particular order, you've got in the AFC the Chiefs, right? All teams. So on the teams that are contenders, right? The teams that they can make a run, in the playoffs.
Yes, and the Chiefs absolutely are still contenders to the idiots out there. Like
100%.
The best quarterback in football, you're still going to be a contender.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that they're MVS, Valdez Scantling's like the answer. No, they're probably also going to get the guy from the Jaguars that they're trading. They're probably also going to draft somebody, and we know Mahomes makes every wide receiver better. I actually worry about the Dolphins in that aspect more than I worry about the Chiefs.
Well, I worry about Tyreek Hill more than I worry about Patrick Mahomes.
Completely agree.
I mean, Tyreek Hill's an absolute weapon. Nobody's going to ever take that away from him. But I mean,
he also had Waddle. You know what I'm saying? Like Waddle and Tua actually had chemistry. I don't trust Tua to have chemistry with both of them.
Well, that's what Miami's doing. I mean, they're putting their high pick and they're doing everything they can to put as much talent around their quarterback as possible. It was Gallman, somebody said, or
Booker. It might have been Devonte Booker.
Well, whatever. It was a marginal guy.
Yeah,
marginal guy.
Real quick, and one more question. I know I'm just messing here, but where does Baker Mayfield go?
Seattle.
You think so?
100%.
I could see.
I think he's going to get released, and I think they're going to pick him up.
Wow, release him for nothing. Wow.
Yeah, because
I have no clue.
Teams apparently want draft capital with Baker to make up for the contract.
It was like what was the one quarterback that the Texans had? They had to give.
Oh, Brock Osweiler.
Brock Osweiler. Thank you. It's like that.
If he got released,
Chicago.
If he got released, would you put a flyer out on him?
I will tell you. I will tell you this, Tom. You know, I do not like him, but the biggest problem with Baker Mayfield was that he's been running for his life.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't see that here, would you?
You know who was top 10 in all QB stats last year, the year before this year?
Baker Mayfield.
That'd be one Baker Mayfield. You know who took Cleveland back to the playoffs?
And was on the doorstep of a Super Bowl. Also.
That'd be one Baker Mayfield. Like, I'm just saying, like, I know things went really sour there, and it started with OBJ's dad. But, like, man, I feel like that guy got a bad rap when he was playing hurt all year, right?
He
played hurt all year, and everybody's trashing the guy. Like, I'm not telling you he's a franchise guy. I'm just telling you went to the playoff for the first time in how long?
No,
and then now he's the scapegoat for a bad year. I mean, listen, if the Giants got him, they become a contender for this division immediately. Immediately. I just want
they don't have a line.
Throw another line. Yep, you're right.
Tom, I'll tell you this, because I think the thing that hurt him the most, and this is something we want from our athletes. I think his pride got the most of him and really cost him a lot, because he decided, hey, I have a knee, an ankle, a back, and a shoulder injury all at the same time last year. In a contract year, I'm going to play. I'm going to play through it. And I give him credit. This is what we want from our athletes. We want guys to play through the pain and put their teammates on their backs. This was the prime example of, listen, the Warriors mentality doesn't always end up being like a Disney movie. Sometimes it ends up backfiring. And that's what it backfired on him. He tried to play through injury, and he played way worse than what he truly was. And then Cleveland saw an opportunity to go elsewhere. And then he went to Twitter, and then he did his thing. I think he's going to have the opportunity to be way healthier than he was in Cleveland. He can throw the football way better than our guy who's already on roster can. And the true biggest thing and why I think the Eagles are kind of laying in the weeds, they're kind of just laying there. To be honest with you, I don't know a lot of other teams that make sense for him. Seattle makes a ton of sense because they have a 70-year-old coach, and Drew Lock is just not it. And I think they're going to be foolish enough to try and compete. So they're not going to try that with Drew Lock. Everyone's saying Carolina. It makes zero sense because you're already paying Baker Mayfield $18 million. You're not going to do that with two guys. And also apparently trying to bring back Cam Newton. I don't see them doing that. The Saints already brought in Winston. The Falcons, they brought in Mariota. You just go up and down the line. There's not too many landing spots for Baker. So, I don't love him, Tom, but if you brought him in, you'd have to give up draft capital for him. I'm not. Yeah, I'm not throwing things.
Yeah, it's like, eh.
Are you doing it, Chucks?
What was that?
Are you doing it?
I'd have no problem bringing him in as a free agent. I wouldn't trade for him. But as a free agent, if they want to take a flyer, see what happens, because he wouldn't cost anything, sure. I don't care. I don't think I agree with a lot of what you said. I don't think Baker is the guy, which kind of sucks because I did like him out of that draft. I don't think he's a long-term franchise guy, but I think he is getting unfair scrutiny over just 1 year where he was exactly what Tom said. 1 year he was hurt the whole year, hurt really bad. So yeah, you can put a lot of blame on him because he didn't help the OBJ thing. But again, I don't think he's as bad as people are making him out to be right now. And people forget easily after 1 year. They forget about players and how good they are or how bad they are. Vice versa. After 1 year, 1 year is all it takes for people to forget about players. It really is. So I don't think Baker is. I think Baker is an above average quarterback that you can win with. I think he's absolutely someone that can help win you games and keep your team afloat. And I don't think he's as bad as people say. But I just at the same time I don't think he's the long-term answer for any franchise. But who knows? Maybe a team like Seattle or whatnot, that's exactly what they're looking for. You know what I mean?
I want to get your gauge. I want to get the opinions from you two guys on one other thing, and that's where I brought up like the contenders thing. So you have the Chiefs, right, in the AFC. You have the Chargers, which I think we would all agree they're contenders. Denver, that entire division. Okay, I think we can all agree all four of those teams are contenders in that division. Tom.
Yeah.
Then you have obviously let's go to the North. The Bengals, they're going to be back. It's 5. The Browns, do we view them as contenders right now?
I personally, I need to see it first.
Tom, I
but
think you're muted, Tom.
I said they should be. Like
Okay.
paper-wise, talent-wise, they should be.
On paper, yeah.
Okay, so that's 7.
If we're including the Chargers, then yeah, I guess we can include the Browns. Because
Okay.
we all said, yeah.
Ravens will be back, right?
Yes.
You would think.
Healthy.
Steelers, do you think they take a step up of with Mitchell?
No.
Okay, so I won't put them in.
Bengals. Did we say Bengals already? No.
Yeah, Bengals, yes.
Bengals you did say. Okay.
Titans,
Yes.
They're tough.
Colts.
They're tough.
Yes.
I think we could both agree the Jaguars are probably better, but not yet, right?
Correct.
Texans, no.
No.
Bills,
Yes.
that's 11 teams.
Patriots. You forgot Patriots. Will make
Well, I could argue all of those teams are better than the Patriots now.
Oh,
Yeah, but Patriots still in the conversation because they're a team that can be a 10-win team again. So you got a lot of teams that can be 10+ wins in the AFC. It's crazy.
The AFC is crazy. AFC is crazy.
My concern for the Patriots, as a concern being, I'm not a Patriots fan, so I'm really not that concerned. But if I was a Patriots fan, it's that I know they have Bill. I get it. They have, pieces on their defense, even though they lost a handful. They really haven't been doing much. So, a lot of teams have passed them, and they don't have a quarterback. Like, I'm sure this could be, a later date. I'm sure you'll do it on your show, Chucks. Like the quarterback rankings and everything. You have Mac Jones, who's very much middle of the pack in that conference at best. So your quarterback's not going to put your team on your back, and they're just kind of sitting back. And they're not. And anyone saying, "Oh, they'll do it in the draft," they're almost bad as Howie Roseman is as far as the draft. Like, they're not good drafters.
Yeah, boys. I got to run. Great talk, though. I got to get in.
Okay.
It was nice to talk some football, even though
Glad to have you on. Thanks for coming on, big guy.
We're me.
Love you. Love you. Have a good night.
Later.
No, but yeah, Ryan. I mean, the Patriots. Here's the thing, though, with the Patriots, though. Because I see what you're saying, and granted, it is early. I feel like Bill always finds a way because it's Bill, so I can never count them out. But it is tough to see them on paper. They're the opposite of what the Browns and the Chargers are. Where on paper you see them and you're like, the rosters are loaded. But with the Patriots, I don't know.
They just lost their offensive coordinator too.
Yeah, they did.
Probably the longest tenured offensive coordinator they ever had.
Huge loss for them. So I don't know. I mean, I like some of their players. So on paper, their team doesn't impress me. But again, it's Bill. So I have no problem with you saying those 11 teams are better than the Patriots, but I just can't ever count out the Patriots because of Bill. That's all my stance is.
No, that's true. Listen, they might freaking trade for Jimmy Garoppolo. Who knows?
Oh my God, what a story that would be, huh?
It wouldn't be. Listen, Bill didn't want to get rid of him.
That would be just coming back home.
I'll just throw that little speck of knowledge into the universe. Bill likes Jimmy, in case anyone didn't know.
So he's going to get him back. He gave him to the 49ers on rent, another 4-year rental. So,
was there anything else you had on the?
I mean, we talked about the Deshaun trade slightly. I mean, we said quickly we feel like the Matt Ryan to Indy was going to make the Colts at least a contender of some sort. Mm-hmm. What was your full opinion? I wanted to touch on this before we go. What was your full opinion on the Tyreek Hill trade? Because to me, for me, because I think you've heard me say this. Tyreek Hill to me is the best wide receiver in the game, in my opinion. He's my wide receiver one. I think people can absolutely make an argument that he's at least in the tier with your other guys like Davonte Adams and I forget who else. It's slipping my mind. DeAndre Hopkins, guys like that. He's in that tier at least. Like getting an elite wide receiver for what they gave up to me is a huge, like, they made out. I was surprised at that's all it costs. Now, I know that the contract was a big thing. Like, they had to also pay him, which is fine to me because, again, it's one thing about overpaying players in free agency that are solid, middle of the road, that are above average, that are good. But I usually have no problem playing elite players because those are the ones that are actually worth it. If you're going to overpay someone, overpay an elite player because you can't get any better than an elite player. They're the ones that are going to produce. They're going to make it worth it. So I thought that I like what Miami's doing. I thought they made out well, and now having arguably the fastest wide receiver duo in the league now is going to be dangerous, especially for that new coach, Mike McDaniel. I like what Miami is doing. As for the Chiefs, I'm really wondering what happened because
I'll tell you.
I feel like Tyreek. This is just I feel like for him it's all about the money.
Yeah, you want me to? I'll tell you exactly what happened. Want me to tell you what happened?
If he wanted to win, he would have stayed with the Chiefs, obviously. But this was about the money. He wanted to be paid. I think I saw it. He wanted to be paid more than Davonte Adams.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He saw Davonte Adams. He saw what he got in Las Vegas, and he's like, "Oh wait, I'm better than that. Pay me." That's all it was. That's all it was. Yeah. To answer your first question on what do you want to know my honest? And this might catch people off guard because I'm dating something back to a couple years ago.
Yeah, go ahead.
My initial reaction to the Tyreek Hill trade was as follows, point blank verbatim. Bill O'Brien is a friggin' idiot. Because you traded DeAndre Hopkins for a running back who couldn't move anymore in a second rounder. Tyreek Hill goes for 5-6 picks. What are we doing? And I know the one pick was pick 29. I know the other one was 50. I know none of them were top 6 picks. I know Chiefs fans were probably begging when they saw Dolphins and Jets. I would imagine 99% of them were hoping he was going to the Jets because you would have gotten a top 10 pick because they have 2.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I think the Chiefs are going to be fine, to be honest. They still have Travis Kelce. They still have Andy Reid.
They're going to be fine.
Listen, I always thought of, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, that's always a great duo. I always looked at, obviously, Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes as, the duo, but whether it's Scantling, whether it's Brandon Cooks, which I think he could still be traded because he's on Houston, whether it's Chenault, whether it's Devontae Parker,
McCall,
whether
Hardman. They still have Hardman, remember?
Yeah, just keep an eye on. I know Pete Carroll is 70 and they want to compete. Keep an eye on Tyler Lockett.
Yes,
to the Chiefs because I think there's a good chance he's on the move, and you can get a lot for him because he plays every game. He doesn't miss games.
Yep.
And I think he's had 3 back-to-back 1,000+ yard seasons. So Tyler Lockett makes a lot of sense.
He's so underrated.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd. So my point is, listen, none of those names I just named are Tyreek Hill. But when you have Patrick Mahomes and you get Brandon Cooks and say you get Chenault, right? Or say you get Tyler Lockett and say you draft somebody. Okay, cool. Say you draft somebody at 29. Cool. They're going to be fine.
Yeah, they're going to be fine.
I see Chiefs Nation because I'm in a bunch of groups for content reasons. The people are literally panicking in Kansas City. Listen, I understand he's the premier part of the offense, and your quarterback was the only person alive that Sometimes even he underthrew Tyreek Hill because how fast he was.
Yeah.
But like the one thing I'll say, just to finish up my thought on it, is like all these Eagles fans that are, again, the outrage. Oh my God, why didn't you make a call about Tyreek Hill? Oh my God, why didn't you get Tyreek Hill? First off, our guy couldn't reach Devonte Smith. Our guy couldn't reach Jalen Rager, who the Eagles thought was Tyreek Hill.
And from what I read, he had didn't Tyreek have control of where he went? He had say over.
Yeah, that too.
Go to Miami. Why would he want to come here? Why would he want to?
Well, and even if he didn't have say, what the hell is Jalen Hurts going to do? Throw it to him backwards in the backfield? He can't reach anybody.
God, yeah.
So, I get it. Listen, Tyreek Hill and Devonte Smith, sign me up. I won't sleep for a year. Awesome. I might buy season tickets, and I don't do that.
Yeah.
But understand who's under center.
Yeah, it wasn't going to happen. I had said immediately after the news came out that they were looking to trade him, I was like, I absolutely would trade for him. It absolutely is not going to happen. Like it's not happening, but I would do it. I would absolutely do it. But it is. I mean, every time we talk about Tyreek Hill on this show, at least, I know we've got one hater who says he's not a believer in Tyreek Hill. We've got Habib over here saying Tyreek is a weapon. He's not an elite wide receiver. Okay, tell that to the Buffalo Bills. Tell that to every other team that gets beat by Tyreek Hill because they can't catch him. Like, I don't care what you want to call him. Whether you want to call him a weapon, whether you want to call him a wide receiver, whether you want to call him the fastest man alive on the football field, I don't care. Fact is, he's an elite player. So take your semantics and shove him, because I get tired of this whole thing. Like, he's just a gadget guy. He just runs fast. No, like this past season, Tyreek Hill, they took away everything deep for Tyreek Hill. What did Tyreek Hill do? He adjusted his game, became more of an underneath guy, and look what he did to the Bills in the playoffs. He took a slant route to the house in the fourth quarter where no one could catch him. So don't give me that he's just a gadget guy. Don't give me that he's just a deep threat. He can't do everything else. He absolutely can. So I get so tired of the Tyreek Hill disrespect because people don't know what they're watching, because they see he's fast and think that all he can do. That's absolutely inaccurate.
I think it's funny too. And Habib, you know, this is not a shot at you because Habib is one of the regulars on Wednesday and Monday. So like, I appreciate you, Habib, but like I don't understand. Like, what's the problem with being fast? What's the problem with being speedy? Did we not like Deshaun Jackson here?
Yeah,
like Deshaun Jackson, as great as he was, Tyreek Hill at some instances says, "Okay, Deshaun, I see that. Hold my beer for a second. I'll be back in 0.5 seconds."
Yeah.
Like, if anyone's going to pass up Tyreek Hill just because, he's a gadget, you can call him whatever he wants. He's one of the fastest people on the planet. So,
yeah.
And he can catch the football.
Yeah. I never agree. And it's not targeting just a beep. Like I said, we get this all the time on this show whenever we talk about Tyreek. There's always someone that wants to downplay him. And I'm just telling you guys, like, stop putting your thoughts about a player in a box. That's not how the NFL works now. Tyreek Hill makes numerous plays. So we've gotten like 12 minutes over our anticipated runtime, but I felt like this was a really great show. It reminds me of shows of yesteryear when we were back at the studio. and it was, I remember it was only me at times, and you were on the ones and twos, and then sometimes we'd have Tom come in. So like, definitely a flash from the past. I appreciated it. I thank you greatly for coming in and helping me out, filling in for Pete and Chrome. You know, Ryan, you're always welcome on the show. Always welcome on the show. Always love to have you. So I greatly appreciate you taking the time and talking sports with me.
No, listen, it's always a pleasure. I like ruffling your feathers, whether it's on the show or especially in the chat.
You're not the only one that loves ruffling.
No, it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
It is. And there's there's not a lot of people that I love letting ruffle my feathers other than you. You are one of the very few, and you know that.
I have a lot of experience in that. I'm not a seasoned vet with a lot of things. I'm a seasoned vet when it comes to triggering
Absolutely.
one Chuck Moranis.
We got to get you on here too for one of the shows where we do our no huddle and we get into a lot of tangents, me and Pete, about like Marvel movies and just a bunch of stuff. So we know you can talk a lot about that. So we got to get you on here for one of those segments.
I'll talk about whatever. I'll talk about the freaking there's a chair in the corner of the room. I'll talk about the stupid chair in the corner of the room for an hour. I don't give a damn.
All right, guys. Well, everyone that's listening, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. We love you. Thank you if you're still listening in. We appreciate everything that you do for us, not for our show, Birds of a Feather here, but for every single show on the platform, on A2D. Makes you catch all the shows every single day. We will be here again next week, hopefully with Pete back on here, and who knows, maybe Chrome as well. But we will continue to talk free agency. We'll continue to talk draft. If you have any draft questions, any draft topics you ever want to talk about, always feel free to drop them in here. We're always willing to talk about football, anything football related. So we've got that. Yeah, Don, he asked about Marvel talk next week. Absolutely. You know it. Next week we've got on Friday, I believe, is Moon Knight. So we're going to preview that in No Huddle probably next week. So hopefully next week we'll also have some more Eagles news. It's been a slow Eagles free agency. So hopefully we'll have some news, but I'm pretty confident we'll find something to talk about as we always do. And of course, thanks to our sponsor, Manscaped, and all the other sponsors here at A2D for giving us their support. So for myself, for Mr. Brodo, for Pete and Chrome who are back at home, we thank you guys. Stay safe. God bless. Go Birds. Take care of yourself.